Hi everybody, my name is Michael. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you're finding something of value here. I truly do. The original Mox News page with 6,600 plus videos, and the alternate Mox News #1 page with 10,200 videos. Probably 10,000 hours work, something like that. But that's not the part, you know. I mean, it's this living history of what people thought at a moment when something was happening. This page, my work has always been about what happened today and what you guys' input on that is. And like I've always said, without you, the work is completely meaningless. You complete the work, which is, I guess, why they call it YouTube. And I cannot thank you enough for
Oh, we got a microphone. All right, so I need your help. You'll have to tell me if the microphone sounds correct, because Craig's not here, and he usually does me a sound check, and this microphone has a tendency to screw up. So please tell me now. Does the microphone sound okay? Craig will be here in a minute. We'll start taking phone calls. I'll play Trump's speech momentarily for you, in which he says there will be a peaceful transition of power. But I need to know how the sound is. Is anybody out there? Can you hear me? You understand? Speak it in English? Right on. Thanks, Coop. Thanks, Wilco. Okay, so Craig will be here in a minute, and we'll start taking phone calls. I have a lot on my mind about domestic terrorists and protesters being called domestic terrorists. I really can't tell you how much that bothers me, and I see it happening across the spectrum. Republican, Democrat, politicians, news readers, domestic terrorists, violence in the state capitol by domestic terrorists. But I will play the video of Trump saying that there will be a peaceful transition of power on January 20th for you, because it just came out a few minutes ago, hour or so ago. And I will let you, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. I want to talk about Facebook censoring the leader of the free world and whether that's appropriate. So I'll be right back. Hopefully Craig will be here and we'll take some phone calls in a sec, okay? And there's my Boo Bear. Hey, what's up, buddy? There's my Boo Bear. He's such a beautiful baby. You're my beautiful baby. He's my beautiful baby.
Welcome back to Q13 News at 4. We've got some fresh video fresh into our newsroom that we want to show you tonight.
Yeah, Capitol Hill is a much calmer place than it was yesterday at this time. But the full picture of the takeover of Congress is just beginning to come into focus tonight. Let's see what President Trump has to say right now.
I would like to begin by addressing the heinous attack on the United States Capitol. Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders. America is and must always be a nation of law and order. The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay. We have just been through an intense election and emotions are high, but now tempers must be cooled and calm restored. We must get on with the business of America. My campaign vigorously pursued every legal avenue to contest the election results. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. In so doing, I was fighting to defend American democracy. I continue to strongly believe that we must reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility of all voters and to ensure faith and confidence in all future elections. Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power. This moment calls for healing and reconciliation. 2020 has been a challenging time for our people. A menacing pandemic has upended the lives of our citizens, isolated millions in their homes, damaged our economy, and claimed countless lives. Defeating this pandemic and rebuilding the greatest economy on earth will require all of us working together. It will require a renewed emphasis on the civic values of patriotism, faith, charity, community, and family. We must revitalize the sacred bonds of love and loyalty that bind us together as one national family. To the citizens of our country, serving as your president has been the honor of my lifetime. And to all of my wonderful supporters, I know you are disappointed, but I also want you to know that our incredible journey is only just beginning. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
And there we just heard a video from President Trump, a very different tone than what we heard yesterday. President Trump now denouncing the violence yesterday at the Capitol and promising to prosecute the people who broke through the Capitol building, saying the people who infiltrated the Capitol, you defiled the seat of American democracy, and also expressing his interest in now a smooth transition of power. So again, we're finally hearing from President Trump today after yesterday's violent, unprecedented, historic day of violence. And that violence at the Capitol already having any impact on the U.S.'s foreign policy and status around the world, with foreign leaders expressing concern about an orderly transition. It's something most of us thought we'd never see. An angry mob of pro-Trump supporters assaulting police and storming the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday. The incident shaking faith in America's electoral system, long thought to be the most stable in the world. Dozens of leaders are weighing in, and most are condemning the violence and blaming President Trump for sending his supporters to march on the Capitol while repeating unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud.
A fundamental rule of democracy is that after elections, there are winners and losers. Doubts about the outcome were fueled, and that set the atmosphere that made the night's events possible.
And the incident could have a big impact on America's foreign policy. On Thursday, the Chinese government used the violence at the Capitol to justify a crackdown on pro-democracy leaders in Hong Kong. And there are indications Iran might exploit the political division to further enhance its nuclear program.
We saw what calamities President Trump has imposed upon his own country over the past 4 years. He has blemished the dignity and reputation of his country.
All right, so there was a lot in that video clip, but in particular, I want to point out that Trump called the protesters taking back the people's house. Again, you keep, I don't know if you guys are listening to these clips, but you keep hearing people like politicians calling the House of Representatives the people's house. You keep hearing news readers, I like to call them news models, because they fit a specific demographic that they're trying to attract. That's why you have this particular news reader, Don Lemon, Rachel Maddow. News models. They're calling this a domestic terrorist attack. They're calling the protesters domestic terrorists. The politicians are calling them domestic terrorists. An act of domestic terrorism. Donald Trump calls it a brutal attack. And it doesn't matter which side you're on. And this is what I've said again and again. This is why I keep telling you there's no difference. This should make it completely, blatantly obvious that there's no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, because not a single Republican, not a single Democrat is standing up and saying, these are not domestic terrorists. These are Americans protesting their government, their representatives. They're protesting. This is the people's house. They came to take the people's house back from people they think are occupying it and not doing their job, representing them. Okay? Not a single Republican, not a single Democrat, not a single newsreader. There's nobody. Okay, I don't know why you hear me again and again. These are Americans. Doesn't matter which side they're on. I don't give a fuck. I'm very, very proud of the people who took the people's house back yesterday. The people's house. This is what you keep being called, and it's just disgusting that these so-called representatives, politicians, will stand up there and say, oh, this is the people's house, and then call the people, we the people who took the house back, that take their house over, call them domestic terrorists. I am so disgusted by that. To me, it feels as if these people have taken an oath, a sacred vow to protect the Constitution, in doing so to protect your individual rights, your rights to protest this government, to stand up against it and say, enough, we have that right. And then when we do it, they call us domestic terrorists. Again, and this is going to be who protesters are moving forward now. If we allow this to be the norm, if we allow this to get these people to get away with calling these beautiful people who stood up to power, who stood up to speak truth to power, and take back the people's house. If we allow politicians and newsreaders to call them domestic terrorists, that's who protesters are going to be moving forward. And there's nothing politicians and newsreaders would like more than to be able to call protesters domestic terrorists every single time moving forward now. You know this is true. I've pointed it out again and again, how the media, doesn't matter left, right, how they portray the people in the streets. Again and again and again and again. That's been one of the big things that I've tried to make clear on the YouTube over the many years that I've been doing this. Look how these are Americans. You guys heard me all summer long. These are Americans. Look how they talk about these people as if they are terrorists. They're Americans exercising their rights as Americans, and somehow, I mean, not somehow, it's easily understandable why the politicians would be threatened by that. It's easily understandable why the media would be incredibly threatened by that, because the media, the politicians, the media, the politicians, the police state wants nothing more than to be able to vilify these people, wants nothing more than to make clear that these people are not worthy of their rights, because they shouldn't have rights. And that's again, this is one of these things that I pointed out again and again, that they want more than anything is to take away our rights. They don't want you to have the right to challenge them. They can't stand that. You see these people. I mean, I have a video here in tonight's show about the woman that was killed in the People's House, as they like to call it, in the House of Representatives, the U.S. Capitol. There was a woman that was killed yesterday. She's a 14-year military veteran with the Air Force and the National Guard. She was unarmed, and they shot her because they thought they could get away with it. And again, you hear the news readers, the news models, again as I like to call them, the news models talking about how it's not the police that caused the violence. It's not the police that caused the violence. And how can you use the words the people's house? How can you talk about that? Oh, this is a people's house. How can you say that and then when the people come to take it back, you immediately call them terrorists? And they think they can get away with it because it's Donald Trump supporters. But it's not Donald Trump supporters. It's Americans. And Americans have the right to do this. And I think I think these people who took back the House yesterday would have really made the founding fathers proud. So So good job to you all. And I see Facebook censoring the president. As if the president is not the leader of the free world, as if what he has to say isn't important, is somehow what Jeff Zuckerberg or whoever today's censor of the president says, oh yeah, no, you're not the most powerful man in the world, I am. You don't get to say that. How does that make, I don't see as where that's correct. The leader, the so-called leader of the free world, the president of the United States, being censored by petty little fucking cunts on Facebook, which is supposed to be a free speech platform. And he's not going to be able to say anything. Facebook has said at least until the end of his presidency, they won't allow any more. The president, Donald Trump, the president of the United States, to do any more Facebook posts until at least the end of his presidency. That's what's being said. Let's see, because I don't know who the fuck Mark Zuckerberg thinks he is, but he's not the most powerful. He's not the leader of the free world. He's not the one. I don't think they should be able to censor the president regardless of what he says. If the president of the United States is posting on Facebook because that's a place where people are getting their information from the White House, from the president, on the Facebook, from the president directly on the Facebook, on the Twitter. If he's doing that, wherever it is he's posting, that I hate censorship. I really do not like Donald Trump. But there's people who want to act like somehow they're the boss of us. That you shouldn't be allowed this information from the President of the United States. No, you should not be allowed to hear that because we're the boss of you, and we get to decide what's okay for you to hear and what's not okay for you to hear. That's the way it is. That's the way it's going to be always, now and forever, moving forward. That and protesters are basically domestic terrorists from now on. You guys know this. You see it happening. I at least that's what I see happening. I don't know if you see it happening. But I want to make clear, I believe anyone that has taken a vow to the Constitution, to protect the Constitution, it's a vow to you. It's not a vow to the Constitution. It's a vow to the people of these United States to protect the Constitution, which basically means protect your enshrined rights in this country with their dying breath. And then they turn around and they use the words the people's house, and when the people come to take their house back, they call them domestic terrorists. Every one of those people, in my opinion, has violated their vow to protect those people's rights. And I think that a violation of a vow to protect the Constitution when you are a lawmaker should be considered a willful act of treason and should be dealt with appropriately. So you want to go ahead and call it, I think, and we see it happening on both sides. Again, there isn't a left, there isn't a right. There is this bullshit right that convinces you, oh no, we're on these people's side. And then there's this bullshit left that says, oh no, we're on these people's side. But clearly, nobody is on the side of the people. Because when we the people come to take back we the people's house, oh, we're domestic terrorists. Okay? And if that's fine with you, then, you know, and there's a fucking phone number, okay? If you want to say something about this, then call the fucking phone number. Okay? Say something about it. The phone lines are lit, right, Craig? Yeah. So, call. Otherwise, you know, we can't, it's really difficult to have a conversation. It's just me talking. But I'd like to have a conversation about this because my opinion has stayed the same, consistent from day one about the protesters, about we the people, about bullshit terrorism. What the fuck is happening there? Okay, and you know it's bullshit terrorism. Those people weren't terrorists. They didn't fucking burn the fucking House of Representatives. They did not burn that house down, we the people's house. They did not fucking spray paint all the walls. They did not rip every piece of art off the wall that they could and fucking smash every article they fucking could. They simply claimed the people's house again. You know, for the people. And I, you know, and that should make everyone proud that it can be done. And it should be an example to be held up to all of us. Hello, caller.
Hello, host.
What's happening?
It was a false flag, Mike. Part of it was a false flag. I mean, what I mean by that is I saw videos of 5 white buses being led by police cars, full, and the buses were full of Antifa people. And I saw the film of it, and I saw the guy that filmed it, and then I also saw a video today of a Capitol police officer opening up the outer fence and waving people in, which is not such a bad thing, okay, because you're just waving them onto the lawn. And like you say, it's the people's house. So, and then I saw another video of a supposedly Antifa person breaking a window with a hammer or a stick and another guy wrestling him back. But if you think from a you know, he grabbed the guy and wrestled him to the ground and stopped him from breaking the window. This is before they got through the door. But if you think in a strategic term, what happened is some people broke through the weak police line and the outer fence, and they went close to the steps, and the cops lit off two smoke bombs, tear gas bombs, and a whole I was eating chips. I got a chip in my throat. Sorry.
Hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
You want to call back? You want to get a cup of tea or something and call back, or?
No, let me get some coffee. I got coffee right here.
Okay.
Okay. And they used pepper spray, and then they came up. They came up the stairs, started breaking the windows.
Who came up the stairs? You're saying the Antifa people?
Well, the mixture. They were dressed as MAGA people, and somehow they got through a door that could easily have been locked, and then they caused some havoc on the inside. But they also fuck. security devices outside, like fire starting bombs and stuff like that. And some people theorized that they wanted to burn the place, like a battle war of 1812. They wanted to burn it down. But what actually happened, I'm sorry to be so lengthy with all that, but there we go. What actually happened was they stopped the count. They stopped the objection at the first state, which was Arizona, and they never resumed it. That was the result, and that apparently was the plan also. So it was very much like a false flag. Let's shoot a ship in the Gulf of Tonkin and start a war, or let's pretend that it was violent MAGA protesters that broke into the people's house and dishonored democracy, and then all of a sudden the whole recount kind of goes away. We take a little break, it goes away. Pence wipes his butt in the bathroom and doesn't do nothing, and that was the result. It was definitely strategic, but we have to ask, how much of it is accident and mayhem and a mixture of different type of peoples, and how much of it was actually planned out. And then, of course, everybody knows that after that happened, I think 140 senators are demonized, and they want to get censured, and Trump is actually trying to destroy America by egging them on and urging violence. And
well, I pointed this out yesterday. It started off with them being what did I say they were? They were oh man! At first they weren't protesters. They were God dang it.
Domestic terror.
No. They started off as something, I can't remember what it was, and then they moved to pro-Trump supporters, and then they became insurgents, and I was making a big thing about them being called insurgents, and then later in the evening they started calling them, when the Senate and the Congress came back in their joint session, they were domestic terrorists, and it was an act of domestic terrorism.
Well, the media spin happened immediately, and it hasn't stopped yet. It won't stop for another 4 days. But the videos are coming out, and I'm quite sure that it was, less than 50 Antifa people pretending to be MAGA people. But they had to have been coordinated. They got a police escort into the Capitol grounds. They had a police escort. So somebody's funding it, somebody's coordinating it, and it's too late now. Trump gave up, which is his right to do, I guess. But it's almost like it was scripted, people are breaking in. There's a guy with a horn in his head. Thor is here. I told you Thor was coming. Did you see him? He was in there. Thor was in the fucking Capitol building with his little fucking magic wand. And then they take a break.
I thought that was the Braveheart guy. He had his face all painted like the Braveheart guy, didn't he?
Oh, he's some crazy fucking... he's definitely Antifa. Oh, he's a crazy fake shaman dude that thinks he's somebody special. I saw him with fucking some other crazy New Age bitch, Eisenhower, Laura Eisenhower, who's as nutty as a fucking fruitcake, But it's just this fake jive-ass guy looking for fame. But that's what you got. You get the fake, crazy jive-ass fake shaman guy with a horn coming out of his head and some tattoos and some Braveheart fur skins on. And then you got every fake jive-ass reporter or news reader or whatever you want to call them, news model. And then you got every fake jive-ass senator, both new senators and old senators, and they're all just jumping on the wagon. Oh, this was the greatest affront to democracy in 700 years, and my opinion is this, and my opinion is that, and but the one thing that actually happened, besides some papers getting knocked to the ground and Nancy Pelosi's office getting a little trashed, and 4 people dying, and 3 of whom, I guess they fell off the top of the stairs 35 feet down. I thought they had heart attacks, but I heard a reporter saying they fell off the top of the stairs 35 feet down below. So that's not confirmed. I only heard one guy say that, but the details are still coming out. But the thing that they're not talking about is what happened in between the time that Arizona came out, Ted Cruz stood up, the brand new Arizona congresswoman made her speech, and then somebody let Antifa through the door, and everybody went to hide, and then they came back, and all of a sudden Joe Biden's the president. It's like, well, we're not counting states anymore, so it was just a formality. It was just a formality anyways. It wasn't important.
Everything is just a formality. That's the problem. The fucking oath that they take is just a formality.
Yeah, well, everything I learned about the whole process told me that it could have gone down the way all the experts were saying, whereas you just go state by state, and it ends up that neither Trump nor Biden have 270 votes, and then it goes to a different level of, let's call it adjudication, where every state has 1 vote. But you have to go through the debates first. 6 debates each for 6 contested states, and they got through 1, and then Antifa and the MAGA people came through the doors, and all of a sudden Joe Biden's the president. That's the real story.
They took two hours to debate Pennsylvania at least after they came back.
Yeah, but that's not much time.
No, they should have spent 2 hours on Arizona, but Arizona withdrew its fucking objection. So.
Yeah, well, I guess it makes sense. But, the spin, the things that happen, and now you're getting the spin. The spin is Trump's the devil. He tried to destroy America. He egged them all on. He probably gave them ray guns and bombs, and they were hiding bombs underneath their MAGA hats, and they were all MAGA, and there was nobody from Antifa there. That's the spin that they're giving you, and it'll go on. The spin, it's the most atrocious thing I've seen in my 700 years as a senator, and it's like, fuck, dude. But there's another thing that's absolutely positive. Even a blind man can see it. Is that the media is gone. It's not a media. There is no media. They just read the government script. That's it. They're not reporting any stories. They and it's not just Facebook, but it's Facebook and Twitter that Trump can't post on.
That's the speech that I just played for you a few minutes ago came off of Twitter, at 4:30 or 4:40, something like that, 4:20.
Yeah, well, I saw it. I saw it on YouTube. I know his YouTube channel is up. So, I'm not. The thing that shocks me is not that they caused a little ruckus at the fucking people's house. Not even that somebody apparently let them in through the front door. The thing that shocks me is they stopped the debates, and we don't hear anything about what happened in between the time that some protesters made it through the front door and the time that Mike Pence certified Joe Biden as the president. What happened?
I told you they came back at fucking 5 o'clock yesterday, 5 p.m. our time. I told you that yesterday during the show. They were going to come back. We ended the show at 5 p.m. They came back at 5:15, and then they went until 2 o'clock in the morning at least.
But
Okay, the Senate
guess
and
there were
the
no
Senate
cameras.
and the House, and they're on there. They're making speeches. They're having debates. Everything that you're talking about. I don't know what you're saying. Nothing happened between then and then. They did at least 6 or 8 hours after they came back.
How many states did there? You got 6 contested states. How many states did they have debates about?
I think there was 2. I only really remember Pennsylvania, but I think there was another one also.
Well, I'm not gonna get all upset about it. It's like the thing. It upsets me more that the media and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube are running a giant disinformation campaign, and every politician and every pundit is jumping on the bandwagon.
And none of that is new. I don't know how this surprises you in any way, dude. None of that is new. That's been going on for the last 20 years. And what really bothers me, again, is seeing people who take a vow to protect our rights, right? Calling people taking back the people's house domestic terrorists, calling it an act of domestic terrorism. I have a clip that you mentioned yesterday. The protesters in Olympia breached the gates there, and they went in and they took over the governor's mansion. Okay, I have a clip of that. Nobody's calling them domestic terrorists. You know why? Because people in Washington state are allowed to have motherfucking guns, and you start calling them domestic terrorists, and next thing they're going to take over the fucking house with goddamn guns. Okay? In Washington, D.C., you're not allowed that. Okay? So, I can't stand, this is what's really shocking. It shouldn't be, but what's really shocking is that no one is defending these people's right to take back their government. That's what America is all about, in my opinion. And these people are fucking...
I don't see that they did anything wrong up until the point when they either broke through the door or were... If they were let through the door, then they did nothing wrong. But if they broke through the door, that's questionable. But they didn't do anything wrong.
It's not questionable if it's their house, right? It's their house.
Not while they're waiting for the fucking vote and the debates. Why would you interrupt something that's going to get you the president you want to get elected again?
Because the president just told you to do that, didn't he?
I don't know, man. I didn't see him, the pre...
And plus, it's the people's house. It's what they're supposed to do. They're tired of it. This didn't happen because of Donald Trump. Okay? That's the whole fucking thing that's being overlooked. The only reason people are desperate enough to go in and break into the House of Representatives and risk going to fucking federal prison for a long, long time and being called domestic terrorists, the only reason they're risking that is because they're fucking fed up. And it has very little to do with Donald Trump. It has to do with 20 years of complete and utter bullshit from our government and our government-controlled media and our goddamn police state.
Yeah, I can agree with that, dude. People are fed up left, right, and center, man. Everybody's fed up. And, you're right. The fucking media spin and the disinformation and the psyops been going on so long that when it hits this peak level where it's at right now, it's like people aren't even surprised, and some people are just bowing down and worshiping the television and say, yes, Donald Trump is Satan.
Well, yeah, some people are fucking going, oh my God, that person's not wearing a mask, I gotta call a cop. I mean, it's fucking insane what sheep the people are becoming instead of fucking being the people that will stand up and take their house back. I mean, and that's what they want. They want us to be just these people these sheep that roll over. And when they say, time for your injection, you roll over and you show them your belly and you say, you go in the belly or my arm? Which one do you want, the left or the right? They don't want you to question shit. And if you do, you are now a domestic terrorist. Okay? That's where we're at in this country, and I'm fucking fed up. And I hope the rest of you are fed up, because I hope the next time the people take back the fucking house, there's a bazillion people there, a million Americans, and they take it back and they fucking keep it. They say, fuck you, you're not welcome here no more. Get the fuck out.
Well, I heard today, since you're talking about the COVID slaves, I heard today AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, and one other company, I can't remember the name, a major vaccine producer, all have not just criminal charges against them in their history of making vaccines and medicines, but they have billions and billions of dollars worth of fines on each of those companies for their criminal activity. They've lost both criminal suits and civil suits, and yet they keep their indemnity. They keep their ability not to be sued by the people they kill with their vaccines, and they keep their reputations, because you won't hear this on the television. But and the mRNA vaccine, there's no animal testing. There is not the whole warp speed thing is a crock of shit. And whoever's out there listening better not take any vaccine. Let some people die first. Be the last in line. If you're a sheep and you think a vaccine is good for you, at least wait 6 months until people start dying. Because what it does is it allows viruses to get into your cells and replicate. It's not protecting you from anything, and technically it's not even a vaccine. It doesn't fall under the medical definition of a vaccine. So, I've known that any vaccine weakens your immune system, but these particular ones, the mRNA, they can cause a cytokine storm in your body 6 months down the road, as soon as you run into the wild version of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. If the wild version hits the mRNA version, it could kill you.
Okay, I know. I want to talk about this thing that's happened in Washington D.C.
All right, man. I'm gonna go
get
potato chips out of my throat.
Okay. Thanks for calling. It's good to hear from you. I'll talk to you soon.
Take cool.
Goodbye. All right, guys. I'm gonna play a quick video for you, and I'll be right back. This is a video about the veteran, the woman, 14 years veteran in the military that was killed in the U.S. Capitol yesterday, because they can. She was unarmed. She wasn't. She was just there being a proud American, and now she's labeled a domestic terrorist who they can fucking kill on sight. Right? I mean, that's what they do. So I'll be right back.
We're learning more tonight about a San Diego woman shot and killed Wednesday when, according to authorities, pro-Trump rioters breached the U.S. Capitol building. Capitol Police publicly identified Ashley Babbitt as the woman who was killed. And Babbitt's husband, Aaron, told our sister station his wife was a San Diego native and spent 14 years in the military between the Air Force and the D.C. National Guard. Babbitt said his wife went to Washington, D.C. to take part in Wednesday's protest, where she met up with friends. He said he sent her a status check text message about 30 minutes before the shooting and never heard back.
She didn't have any weapons on her, and I don't know why she had to die in the people's house. That's our house. It's everybody's house. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. I don't know why she had to die inside the house. I saw the pictures. I had to see the pictures of my wife dying on the news.
Well, the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department said in a news conference today the woman was shot by one Capitol Police officer with a service weapon after protesters breached the fencing.
She loved her country, and she was doing what she thought was right to support her country and joining up with people, like-minded people that also love their president and their country. And, she was voicing her opinion, and she got killed for it.
Babbitt was transported to a local hospital where she later died. The officer was placed on administrative leave in accordance with police policy. Police also say 3 others died during medical emergencies.
You guys see that news model? She was definitely nipping. She was nipping big time. I don't like her very much, though. But that's beside the point. Okay, so again, 14-year veteran service, to this country to protect, again, vowed to protect your rights, protect an oath to the Constitution, and she shot in the neck, unarmed, shot in the neck. She's not breaking stuff. She's simply moving with this crowd of people. And they shot her in the fucking neck because they can't. And they won't identify the person that shot her. And of course it's not the police. It's not the police. It's not the people that were armed there with the guns shooting at people. They're not the ones who caused the violence. It's the people. And again, they want to call them domestic terrorists. Again, I've talked about this, how they love to label the protesters, right? And Occupy, they were public fornicators, they were public defecators, they were drug users, right? They love to just label. Like I said yesterday, it started off, it was this mob that was overtaking the House of Representatives, and then they became Trump supporters. Oh, pro-Trump supporters are overtaking that, and then they became insurgents, because they're insurgents and you can shoot them. That's what you do with insurgents. And now they're domestic terrorists. Today they're domestic terrorists, okay? And I told you this. They love these labels. They love it, man. So don't buy into it. These labels are the worst thing. Don't you label people. Again, they're Americans. And, with the right to go into the street and demand better from their piece of shit government, right? That's what America is all about. Hello, caller.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Okay, who's this is?
Yeah, this is Dave.
Hey, Dave, what's happening?
Just monkeying around. Thought I'd give you a buzz. I'm with you. I think you are 100% correct. We have to be very careful about who gets labeled terrorist.
Yeah.
And how broadly that term is used. I'm pretty sure we just went through 20 years of, probably a 10% accuracy rating of who exactly, not even 10%, probably 1%.
Right.
Because if somebody is defending their country and you're in their country, you can't consider that person a terrorist. So everybody was getting labeled terrorism. That was the whole Bush thing. And, I took a quick look, and sure enough, terrorism is a word that was definitely primarily invented by monarchy, against the, the Basque community, and in the, of course, they're going to label people terrorists. This is how you can get, it's an indiscriminate way to describe people so that they can just all become the enemy real easily,
It's not just that. It's a way of keeping people in line. You don't want to get that label on you. You don't, because that's like the worst label you can get. So you better stay in line. Right. Otherwise you're going to be one of them real soon too.
Yeah, exactly. We are all, every American is on the edge of very close to becoming, being called a terrorist.
I'm sure.
Careful.
I'm absolutely certain there's a file somewhere that labels me that way. I'm absolutely.
You're definitely not a terrorist. You're definitely not a terrorist. I'd be real careful with that term. One of the big movements, from the protest movement. One of the big movements against them was to try to, and this has been going on the last 4 years, they got pretty close to doing it. I don't know if they actually did. I know they increased the laws of people who commit vandalism on, like, say, energy, so like pipelines. There were these girls who went and messed with the valves on the oil pipeline, and they used that case to try to say, oh, these are environmental terrorists.
Yeah.
And so these people are protesting, and they are committing acts of vandalism, but they're not designed to scare people. It's just designed to, cause a disruption in the operations of that which they deem to be, assaulting them. That the actual environmental terrorism was when the guards showed up with the dogs and sicked these dogs on the people, the native women and children.
Yeah.
And that was the terrorism.
Right.
Now, when you're using dogs on people to scare the shit out of them, like, we're going to let these dogs go, and they get the dogs all riled up.
Yeah.
And then they let the dogs go on these, these were literally like women and children. There was a few dudes, but they let those dogs on those people. And that was like, whoa, everybody's like, holy shit, that's like freaking, 1950s Georgia right there.
That's some serious Gestapo bullshit, man.
Yeah. Now, if I've done it all. So I've been demonstrators also. People get a lot of these terms mixed up, like demonstrators and protesters. A demonstration is definitely very different from a protest. I've had a demonstration. One person can do a demonstration, and all you do is do something completely legal. You're not necessarily protesting, although it could be viewed that way, but just conducting a demonstration where you're, either trying to get attention for a certain cause or whatever.
Right.
It doesn't even have to be for a cause. It's a demonstration.
Yeah.
That's different than a protest. And then, the contrast of this, the protesters who went to the governor's mansion in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. This is a great example, because at first this guy was freaking scared, right? Because I think it was initially it was like 1,000. I'm not sure how big the crowd eventually got to, but it was largely black crowd, and then there was a lot of the parents of children who had been killed by police, and then it was accompanied by a pretty sizable indigenous group of people who actually came and conducted a ceremony and a dance out in the street in front of the governor's mansion. And there was a lot of people there, and they were not happy. They were chanting, they're yelling, but they weren't destroying property. And that was a protest. It was a peaceful protest. And after a while, the governor felt so comfortable that he came out. And boy, that's a hard thing to do. If you're a public servant, you come out of your house and they're all out there, and these are mothers of dead children, tons of them. They got all the signs up there with all the names, the dates of when they were killed by police, and he had to go out there and face them, and it got a good result. That was a very effective protest, because he initiated a statewide review of police practices and civil justice within the police departments. And it's still, I think, ongoing at this point. But that protest resulted in that. So that was very effective. It was extremely well done. And it was a great example for everybody to look at and say, if you want to stage something and you want to go to their houses, this is how you do it. You don't go wreck their stuff. You just show up in big numbers, close the street down, no permit. There's a little bit of civil disobedience involved, but it's not terrorism.
Well, I think terrorism is obvious. Terrorism is like when an RV explodes in downtown Nashville on Christmas Day. That's pretty obviously terrorism. I'm not saying that it's not an inside job. I'm not saying that it's not government provoke terrorism. I'm just saying that it's easily labeled terrorism. When the people go to the people's house, where their so-called representatives are inside doing their business, meaning the people's business, and the people say, you know what, we want to occupy this space, and then they call them domestic terrorists, and they're not blowing up RVs outside. They're not spray painting the walls. They're not burning the place down. They're not ripping every piece of art. They're not tipping over every statue. They're just occupying the people's house. How dare you call them domestic terrorists? And every single person that you see doing that, you should despise to the point of, I want that person off television. I want that person out of politics. I want them shamed in a very, very big way.
I mean, the Nashville thing was a very interesting case. I think kind of stands alone because of the way it was carried out, not necessarily the act itself, but the way the guy did it was extremely interesting, and he definitely went to a very great lengths to make sure that his message was going to be carefully crafted and perceived in a very particular way. And he was very
I'm just saying I'm just using that as an example. I'm not really talking about what he did. I'm just saying that's terrorism, It's obvious, that's what terrorism looks like. The people taking back the people taking back the people's house is not domestic terrorism. And every one of these goddamn reporters, goddamn piece of shit politicians, they first call it the people's house, and then they call the people who took it back terrorist. Fuck them. Okay? That's a bunch of bullshit, and you can't allow this to every time you see one of these people do this, you should never forget that person is against America. That person is against the foundations of America, the building blocks, where we begin. Fuck those people.
Yeah, there's actually a pretty good case. People on the street in a lot of the protests have actually, this has been pretty heavily discussed, but what police are doing in some instances and the way they handle certain things is actually terrorism. If they come kicking your door in at 3 a.m. with a no-knock warrant, that's actually terrorism, especially if the warrant isn't warranted. If it's really something stupid, like the case of Breonna Taylor, it's like, you're not looking for an actively dangerous fugitive or anything like that. You're just they were looking for drug money. I mean, everybody knows that. But either way, you can't just kick in the door and start, pulling your guns on people. The lady in Florida who was the person who quit, right, or got fired because she didn't go along with their stats on the COVID, that was terrorism because they came into her house and were pointing their guns up the stairs at her kids. It's like, what the hell? That scares the hell out of people, and there's no other purpose for it. You see,
right?
I'll grant that
they're making an example. They're making a very public example of that. If you do something like this, we're going to come to your home and we're going to point loaded guns at your children's heads. How will that make you feel?
Yeah, or, even just coming up on a car that you're pulling over for a basic vehicle, some kind of violation, and you're pulling your gun, it's like, and I've had guns pulled on me by cops, and let me tell you, it's terrifying. So
I've had a cop point a shotgun at my face from 6 feet away.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, it's like, whoa,
okay, you have my attention. What did I do?
Yeah, you have my attention. What's the problem? Do you want me to put out the joint? It's insane. Cops are terrorizing the way they're deployed into our communities and what they're pursuing. It doesn't appear to be validated by it's not a rational fear of society to send out, squads of armed, I call them soldiers, they're not cops anymore, police or, the sheriff. Sheriffs are not supposed to behave that way, but these are like, they've converted them into soldiers, and they spread out into the communities and just start terrorizing everybody and collecting money.
Right.
And that to me is terrorism, and
it's certainly not
seem to be
justice.
backed up.
It's certainly not justice.
Yeah, it's not making your community safer.
No.
So it's not, you can't validate it through that. So the only way you can validate it is say, look, we got to keep the people in fear. Now, judges use this too.
Yeah.
There's terrorism that goes on in all levels of our government. Like the judge will say, well, we're going to make an example out of this guy so we can scare the shit out of everybody else.
Right.
To prevent this. And they call it, when you use it as a preventative measure, of deterrence.
Yeah.
It's the philosophy of deterrence actually is terrorism if you break it down and examine it. What did these guys do yesterday? I wouldn't call it terrorism, but I would call it, insurrection or sedition, whichever term they want to do. Those are pretty close, but that's what they did. And, is it, was it warranted? Was it effective? That's the key.
Again, it is warranted. I mean, this isn't because of fucking Donald Trump, okay? It's not because, they're angry about the way Donald Trump has been treated. It's because they're angry over the way their rights have been fucked with for the last 20 years, at least. They've had all they can take, so they're gonna fucking... and then they're egged on. So, it's I'm really glad to see it. I'm really, really glad to see it. I think it was a beautiful thing that happened. And when you see these Congress people and they act like they're so terrified and, oh, my children were there and, you know what? I mean, look, we heard for weeks and weeks that the protesters are coming. And that the protesters are going to just fucking annihilate Washington, D.C. So you brought your children and you put them into harm's way. Don't give us some shit and you're the one who decided to take this job. If you think that being a congressperson is the safest job in the fucking world, I hear the governor of Michigan talk about how she has to wear body armor. Oh, I'm so terrified I have to wear body armor. Fuck you. A lot of people have to wear body armor, okay? And that's threats are part of that job. I've gotten death threats regularly for the last 20 years at least. It's not a thing. I don't fucking wear body armor when I go to walk the dogs. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah. I guess I see it from a little. I see the woman as a victim, but
hey, JP, fuck Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump is a horrible piece of shit. I don't give a shit about Donald Trump. I care about the people and the people's rights. So whatever reason you can't get that through your pea brain, go ahead and fucking unsubscribe. No one gives a fucking shit. Okay? You're nobody. We've never seen you before. It doesn't matter the tiniest little bit. Unsubscribe. Okay? Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Every member of Congress calling people, protesters, domestic terrorists in America is a piece of shit. And in my opinion, they fucking violated their vow to protect the people's rights. Okay? That's all there is to it. And in my opinion, when they violate that vow that they take to the Constitution, where they put their hand on their religious text of their choice, when they violate that vow, that is a willful act of treason, and it should be treated as such.
Yeah, and really what we're watching is a fight between two factions of usurpers. I like to remind people this fight between the Catholics and the evangelicals is the backstory behind the immigration. That's what's going on at the border. There's lots of available documentation about how much money they get for all of that. It's a very lucrative business, and a lot of people that are involved in this from both factions are making a lot of money doing that. also, when Bill Barr and Jeff Sessions switched places, these guys, this is Catholics versus evangelicals. And it was very noticeable that before that there was talk of RICO charges and all of this. And then all of a sudden that all stops when Jeff Sessions leaves. And now when they come in, and now they're going to go after, you know, the evangelicals. And then this is Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, the Catholics. I noticed one thing that disturbed me pretty, you know, really shook me to watch this. But when they reconvened the House after everything calmed down, they came back in. First thing she started going on about was, you know, oh, this is the Catholic feast of this, and it's all this, and going on and on and on about Catholicism. And I'm just saying, this is what I repeatedly talk about. That's my thing, is, you know, freedom from religion is the First Amendment. That's what's in there. It is, yes, we have the freedom of religion, but it's also the freedom from it. We have the right to not practice it, and we don't need any religious people coming in and trying to put their crap in our laws, you know?
Yeah.
They don't want that. No. Don't tell me, you know, that I can't eat fish on Friday. You know, we don't want any influence from that in our laws. We just want laws that are simple, easy to understand for people, that, you know, don't overstep your boundaries. You're there to help us. You're not there to rule us.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
if you want to manage our business.
They're making 40,000 new laws a year. They're making 40,000 new laws a year.
Insane.
From what I understand, like the typical American violates like 7 federal laws on a daily basis, commits several felonies on a daily basis. Okay, and not even knowing it. It's not like they're doing it intentionally. It's not like they're, you know, going down and buying a pound of crack or something. They just are fucking living their lives, and they're being overly fucking criminalized. The people of this country have been overly criminalized, and it just escalates. It just keeps getting worse. Now you're all fucking potential domestic terrorists. And if you can't hear this from the news, if you can't hear it if somehow, oh no, it's just the pro-Trump supporters. No, it's not. This is as soon as they fucking label protesters domestic terrorists, it's gonna fucking spread. And those people, again, they should be held accountable with extreme prejudice, in my opinion, violating their sacred vow to the Constitution, which, again, in my opinion, is a willful act of treason.
That's right. And from my perspective, what the biggest thing that I'm facing right now is that if I speak out about religion, if I start talking about it, I start to run the risk of being labeled a hate, bordering on hate speech. And I get this constantly. If I say, oh, this and this, and they say, oh, you hate these people. And I'm like, no, that is not, you know, you have to stop and explain it and say, no, it's not about hate. This is just, we're discussing the facts of the situation here. We're not discussing.
No, I don't hate the people. Yeah. I just fucking hate God. Okay? Fuck God.
I don't even hate that. I just don't want you putting your rules because of your belief system onto me in a secular democracy. There's no room for that. If we allow that, then we're in trouble. Just like the terrorism thing, they're behind that because they love that. The religious love the terrorism thing because they want to adopt it into their thing. They want to be included in that group so that if anybody speaks about them or wants to, like what I do, I preach about, taxing the churches. It's like, that's not hate speech to say we should tax the churches. I'm sorry, but that's just reality. That's financial reality. They're not supposed to be favored. Yeah. And what happens when you start favoring these people, they get taken over by nutters, and the next thing you know, they're worth billions of dollars, and they can, buy whatever they want, and which is usually more power. And it's not going to come to a good thing. You got to get rid of that. And but the other thing I want to bring people's attention, my opinion about something that I've been following for a long, long time, isn't it interesting that Brexit started and ended and wrapped up at the same time as this entire process that we just watched for 4 years? It's a very interesting thing to me.
Well, Brexit's been going on for longer than 4 years.
Well, the vote, the actual vote, and the actual movement of that, when they voted, it all started 4 years, and it wrapped up within the same week. I pay attention to that. It doesn't have anything to do with personal, any of the personalities involved. I just watch for cycles and things that start and end at the same time. And that's all I'm saying is I find that very interesting because those are, it was a very, like you say, a long drawn out process. But the actual vote, from the actual vote to the actual deal, wrapped up within a week or so of, big events that happened here. So that's all I'm saying. We don't work with the same intelligence as the British. That we've always known. I don't think our intelligence agencies are anywhere near what those people have been working on for, they keep shit for 1,000 years. We've only been around for 200.
Right.
And we're constantly trashing each other's stuff. So we don't have a continuity. We don't have the type of intelligence that they have. They've been gathering it from all over the world for many, many hundreds of years. We're not operating in the same ball game as them. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I hear you. All right, Dave. I gotta go heat up my tea. So I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Thanks a bunch for calling.
All right, Mike.
Good to hear from you.
Yeah, we'll see you.
See ya. All right, that's our buddy Dave from New York. I'm gonna go heat up my tea. I'm gonna play a video here about Biden. Where's the Biden one? Biden calls the protesters domestic terrorists. Again, so this is what you can expect, and of course Kamala Harris the same way. So this is what we can expect. But it's not a left or right thing. The Republicans are calling people domestic terrorists, and it doesn't, the conservative news is calling them domestic terrorists, the liberal news is calling them domestic terrorists. They're Americans. That's what I've called them from the beginning, from months ago. Okay, and they want to label us all domestic terrorists so that they can act. They have a reason why they have their guns pointed at us. A very valid, good reason. Here you go. Joe Biden, the protesters are domestic terrorists.
You're watching Como News.
Developing now, more fallout from yesterday's violent siege on the U.S. Capitol. We just learned the U.S. Capitol Police Chief, Stephen Sund, is resigning effective January 16th. This comes after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called for him to step down due to a botched response to yesterday's attack.
And in the last few hours, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said yesterday's violence was appalling and that those involved are the opposite of what the Trump administration stands for.
Let me be clear. The violence we saw yesterday at our nation's capital was appalling, reprehensible, and antithetical to the American way. We condemn it, the president and this administration, in the strongest possible terms. It is unacceptable, and those that broke the law should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Now, a growing number of leaders across the U.S. and the world are blaming President Trump for the attack, casting doubt on his final days in office.
Now, during a speech in Delaware today, President-elect Biden accused President Trump of an extended assault on democratic institutions. Take a listen.
And there is no president. That's why there is no president who is a king. No Congress. That's a House of Lords. A judiciary doesn't serve the will of the president or exist to protect him or her. We have three co-equal branches of government. Co-equal. Our president is not above the law. Justice serves the people. It doesn't protect the powerful.
In all, 4 people died. 1 was shot. 3 suffered medical emergencies. 68 people in total were arrested, and at least 50 police officers were hurt in these riots.
The pro-Trump extremists stormed the Capitol to impede the certification of Biden as the next president of the United States. They were temporarily successful as lawmakers were forced to evacuate the Capitol until the rioters were cleared. Congress reconvened late last night. Only 2 senators, Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, officially objected to the electoral votes. House. Their colleagues voted them down, and lawmakers eventually ratified the results, declaring Joe Biden the winner of the presidential election early this morning. Shortly after that, President Trump released a statement saying, in part, he still totally disagrees with the outcome of the election, but that there will be an orderly transition on January 20th.
Meantime, President Trump is being accused from some on the both sides of the aisle for inciting violence at the Capitol yesterday. They say in the weeks following the November election, the president stoked division, which culminated in the rally held in D.C. Now, many have expressed concerns with the language he uses with his supporters. This was before the march to Capitol Hill.
Many of you have traveled from all across the nation to be here, and I want to thank you for the extraordinary love. That's what it is. There's never been a movement like this, ever, ever. For the extraordinary love for this amazing country and this amazing movement.
More than 2 hours after protesters entered the Capitol, the president released a video that has been removed on Facebook and Twitter, calling on the crowds to go home. The video was criticized again for the affection shown to rioters.
But we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
Happening now, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat have blocked the president's accounts. Facebook says the president's account has been blocked indefinitely. We want you to know what you think. Do you agree with the social media giant banning the president's social platforms? You can cast your vote right now on our KOMO News Facebook and Twitter pages. So far on Twitter, 66.5% say yes, 33.5% say no.
Today, more lawmakers are calling for President Trump's removal from office following the attack on the Capitol. Sinclair National correspondent Atra El-Nashar is in Washington, D.C. with what could happen next.
A blistering attack from President-elect Biden on President Trump's behavior.
He unleashed an all-out assault on our institutions of our democracy from the outset. And yesterday was but the culmination of that unrelenting attack.
Sobering images of destruction inside the U.S. Capitol. The People's House now surrounded with fencing.
What happened yesterday is a wake-up call to many.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois becoming the first Republican to call for President Trump's removal through the 25th Amendment.
All indications are that the president has become unmoored, not just from his duty, nor even his oath, but from reality itself.
Democrats like Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono tell Sinclair it's too risky to allow President Trump to serve the short remainder of his term.
He can do a lot of damage. Look what he did in just a few days' time to encourage all these people to storm the Capitol. So there's a genuine fear among the military and among a lot of people.
Incoming Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi calling for the president's immediate removal, either by the 25th Amendment or impeachment.
The President of the United States incited an armed insurrection.
A group of House Democrats quickly drawing up articles of impeachment, though many believe they won't succeed.
I would hope that the House of Representatives would spend its time concentrating on getting ready for this new administration.
Over at the White House, a wave of resignations. Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao joining at least 7 others as of Thursday afternoon, including Mick Mulvaney, who at one point served as President Trump's chief of staff.
But I can't stay here. Not after yesterday. You can't look at that yesterday and think I want to be a part of that in any way, shape, or form.
Former Attorney General William Barr blaming President Trump for what happened, telling the Associated Press the president's reaction Wednesday was a, quote, betrayal of his office and supporters. For the very first time, President Trump is acknowledging President-elect Biden will be the next president, putting out a statement through his aides that there will be an orderly transition of power. Of course, he couldn't put the statement out himself because his Twitter account has been frozen and Facebook is banning his account for at least the remainder of his term. On Capitol Hill, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
All right, so I am going to have a bong hit. It is definitely time for a bong hit here. I found that video interesting. Again, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but that video had so many things in it to talk about. So if you want to call, the number's right there on the screen. It's 805-669-6397. Otherwise, I'm talking about what's going on with all these people being labeled domestic terrorists when they're basically just protesters. Hey, hold on just a sec. I gotta take a bong hit. Okay. Hello, caller.
Hey, Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How about you, Chris?
I'm doing well. I just took the whole fucking day off. I mean, I went to bed last night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up this afternoon at 5 p.m.
Wow. Nice.
And I don't know. It's kind of a way how I respond to overstimulation, you know?
Uh-huh.
Just there's so many different aspects of this story going on right now, and so many different links and consequences, and there's backstory that my brain is really kind of overwhelmed in ways. I think a lot of people's brains are overwhelmed right now.
Yeah, I agree.
And I am totally willing to listen to other people's perspectives. You know, I'd like to see evidence if they make assertions, right? But I am willing to listen and look at other people's points of view. And I think that's really important to do today because we're all, as you pointed out, we're all American citizens, right? All of us have these rights enshrined in the Bill of Rights that are supposed to be rights that we have. And we all should be concerned when those rights are abridged or, you know, when some people have rights that are extended to them and other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Like, do you understand? Like, does that make sense?
Sure. They keep talking a lot about how the BLM protesters were treated over the summer in comparison to how these protesters were treated. I mean, something like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
There's that photograph that has been circulating of they were either Marines or like the National Guard, but they were in military fatigues, right? Military outfits. And it looked like there were like 100 soldiers just standing like 6 feet apart on the steps of the Capitol building, you know, to oppose a Black Lives Matter demonstration.
Yeah.
And they had fair warning about what was coming. I mean, first of all, they knew that the crowds, I mean, just the FBI and the security services, they know about the movement of people.
Yeah.
I mean, remember all this surveillance stuff we've been talking about for like 5 years or whatever? They know where people are and what people say, and they know when thousands of people are congregating, and they know from watching their phones from an office someplace what direction they're moving in. So the fact that this occurred, you know, it seems to me like I tend to agree with Andrea Mitchell a little bit on this, and what you said about the BLM demos, you know, or what we were talking about with the BLM demos. I think they were let in, and I think it's because the police were generally sympathetic to the political and ideological perspectives of the demonstrators, and that had something to do with them being allowed into the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen footage, and here's a link, first link, and I'm not going to read from this link, but I want to give it so people can go to it. People listening to this or people in chat can go to it. It's from a liberal website, progressive, whatever that means, progressive website, called Status Coup.
You're digitizing. You're gonna have to.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. Here, I'm gonna have to step outside. So, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Better? Okay. So the footage is called from Status Coup. It's a YouTube page. He has about 1 million subscribers or something. He has 103,000 subscribers, and he had 30,000 views on this video. The video is crazy footage. It's called Crazy Footage. Trump's army fights cops inside the Capitol. And it's raw footage from a person named John Farina, who is an independent journalist who was with the crowd videotaping what was happening in the Capitol building. And the footage contrasts sharply with what was projected on mainstream media. They said it was just a cakewalk, and they often show that picture of them walking through those two cords, across the rotunda, and they're all just kind of walking. Of course, they're looking at these statues and these paintings and this beautiful, all this art, right?
Right.
And it doesn't look like they're doing shit, right? Last night you said what would happen if somebody had 5 gallons of gas? Burn it down, right?
Well, no, I said if it was me, I would have been carrying 2 5-gallon cans of gas. Go ahead.
I know, and that didn't fucking happen.
That's what I'm saying. Those people aren't domestic terror. Not only did that not happen, they didn't spray paint the walls with all the granite walls. They didn't spray paint. They didn't pull every piece of art down off the walls. They didn't tip over every statue. They didn't do anything like that. All they did was occupy the people's house. And for that, they're domestic terrorists. Go ahead.
Yeah, and this was the subject of Glenn Greenwald's response to this morning. And he wrote an article called Violence in the Capitol, Dangers in the Aftermath, from the Cold War to the War on Terror. The harms from authoritarian solutions are often greater than the threats they are ostensibly designed to combat. I know that's a long title, and a lot of people don't like long titles. But what he basically is saying here is, fuck. See, I can't use my computer when I'm not within reach of this internet service. Like,
You said Glenn Greenwald. You said Glenn Greenwald, right?
Yeah, Glenn Greenwald. Yeah, thank you. So Glenn Greenwald talks a lot about language because he's a lawyer. He's a constitutional lawyer.
Right.
So he talks about this language that's being thrown around and how it's going to backfire, and all of us are going to be just told to shut the fuck up.
Right.
Whether you're a communist or you're whether you're a fascist or a libertarian.
No. You're all the same. You're all now domestic terrorists or potential domestic terrorists. Excuse me. Go ahead.
If you say anything outside of the mainstream parameters, if you say anything that wasn't on Jimmy Kimmel's show or Steve Colbert's show, if you say anything that wasn't on the news, well, then you're a potential terrorist.
Right.
And this also ties in with the censorship of COVID-19 lockdown, right? People who talk about the effects of the COVID lockdown being as serious as the disease itself are called conspiracy theorists.
Yep.
And they're called cranks, and they've been censored. So this censorship is going to be more broadly applied and more generally accepted by many who fall to this trap of watching television. They get their news, they're just watching Fox News or CNN, that's all they do. And they're not looking at other points of view. And it creates this echo chamber. And that is part of the problem, and that's intentional. The media does that intentionally.
Right.
I'd like to read this, and I didn't get it. Just found the link, but this was from Ron Horn's website called Surviving Capitalism Blogspot from this morning, and this is one thing that he said I want to share. He says, there is no hint of a deep state that is well-connected financier, corporate executives, and this he's critiquing another person's article, suggesting there is a deep state. There is no hint of deep state that is well-connected financiers, corporate executives, and other major capitalists who firmly control what Congress does using secret intelligence agencies to circumvent Congress and design propaganda that is propagated by their control and nearly all media organizations. After all, they fund the campaigns of your representatives in Congress. They are a ruling class who quite literally own the country and much of the economy residing in the United States, England, and Israel. As such, they control millions of jobs and careers. Their ownership gives them powerful control over every institution. I would like to offer an alternative view, more realistic. Granted, it's difficult to determine what our masters are up to, but there are ways to find out. First, regard all television coverage as propaganda that is designed to sweeten the deeds of our ruling masters in the eyes of the general public. Do not watch television to learn what is going on in the world and in America. Whatever coverage they provide through their networks, you must consider reporting as promoting their interest of profit and power. They are addicted to these substances, and they will craft their propaganda as a way to con you into behaving in ways that promote their agendas. All right? He is spot on right there.
And that's why he's not welcome in the mainstream media anymore, in case anybody's wondering.
That's why he only has like 5,000 people read his blog every week or something, including me, He lives in Seattle, Ron Horn. But
he doesn't live in Seattle. He doesn't live in Seattle.
Ron Horn doesn't?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Glenn Greenwald. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, Glenn Greenwald lives in Brazil.
Yeah.
I was quoting from Surviving Capitalism, which is Ron Horn's blog. But I did have a quote from Greenwald. I couldn't get it fast enough. I couldn't find it. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to point that out to other listeners and to people in chat that look at other sources. Like I went to the Reddit's page last night and looked at the communist perspective about this, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what was said on their website, communist, discussion about communism in America. It says, today's extravaganza was barely a few thousands big. The Black Lives Matter marches were way larger, more militant as well. They were relentlessly tear-gassed, pepper-balled, shot at with rubber bullets, kettled. They faced horses before even be able to get close to any federal building.
Yeah.
The disparity in police departments glaringly obvious. The amount of repression the protest of last summer in D.C. faced is not comparable to whatever the fuck happened today. And by that I mean the cops let it happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI and other services did as well. Now, watch the repression impact leftist more than fascist. The fact of the matter is that today's protest by these fascists should not be read as its superiority against proletarian power, because you can't compare them. One has a large section of the state and the bourgeoisie being okay with them doing their shit. That's the police. The other has none. One will therefore get leeway to symbolically wreak havoc. The other will be shot on sight. That's not to mention the tight interrelationship between fascist and the bourgeois state security apparatus. All right, so that's their perspective, the communist, right? Their perspective is that what happened today is going to be a backlash. And when the Antifa goes to get the CHOP, right, in Seattle this summer, they're going to be twice as repressive against the leftists as they ever are against the people on the right. Now, I know you talked about the left-right divide, but again, I'd like to use my own experience here in Olympia, Washington, and from what I've observed in Portland, Oregon. And what I've observed is that the police have a tendency to beat up the leftist, and they did not beat up the people who came from Proud Boys and Patriots. That was in Oregon and Washington, and now at the Capitol building, except for, like I said, this footage that I mentioned from Status Quo that says Trump's army fights cops inside the Capitol. And that footage is amazing. It's about 10, 15 minutes long, and I hope Craig pulls it up, because I think you can use it with copyright if you shut the volume and just play it. You can see this footage of these demonstrators. And they are literally a wall pushing against a corridor of cops. There's like 20 cops kettled, and less than the cops are kettled, but the cops are pushing out, and they're using mace, and then they're using batons to beat over the top of people with shields.
Yeah.
And then the demonstrators are calling for new demonstrators, like, we need more people, and the people would come up in front and they would swift out, they'd trade out, and it was like a football game, Mike.
Yeah.
It was tactical and strategic, and the police were not backing down at all. The police were beating the shit out of people, and they were pushing people out of the building,
Yeah.
physically moving them 1/2 foot at a time down a 50-foot corridor,
Right.
and pushing the whole crowd back. And so now when I see that footage, I was a participant in the World Trade Organization demonstrations in 1999.
Mhm.
And I've seen police brutality. I've seen demonstrations here in my city as well. I've seen the police beat people up, and I've seen this before, right?
Yeah.
So, the right is experiencing this right now. And it's got quite a contradiction, because, they're carrying these flags at this demonstration yesterday, Blue Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Now, fucking A, how dumb you have to fucking be to carry a Blue Lives Matter, right, flag, as the police are beating you out of the halls of Congress and shooting you.
Yeah. No, I agree. I keep wondering the same thing. I mean, all I need to know about Donald Trump is we love our police so much. Fuck you, dude. We love our freedom so much. The police ain't about that. Go ahead.
No, and so then the other thing is this murder, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a pretty big deal. It was an unarmed protester.
Yeah.
The other thing is, she was a veteran.
Yeah.
She had served four tours of duty in the Air Force, and she was an officer, I believe. I believe she was like a security officer.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a person who has like some status in America, kind of. She was a small business owner, like Craig is a small business owner as well. So she's kind of a respectable person in ways. And they shot her, and she was not armed, did not have a gun,
Yeah.
did not have a knife. She was just trying to crawl through a window, and they shot her without even looking at her.
Yeah. They shot her. They didn't shoot her to try and stop her. They shot her in the fucking neck to kill her. They wanted her dead. They wanted her lying in a pool of her own blood for anybody else to see that was thinking about coming through that fucking door.
They set an example.
Yeah.
So the people that I've seen, again through doing my own research, who I tend to agree with at this point are the anarchist, and oddly enough, like Glenn Greenwald, who's like a civil libertarian, and David Rovics. I've mentioned him before. He's an anarchist in Portland. He wrote an article 2 days ago before the events happened, but he posted a reading of the article on his website this morning, so he obviously was aware of what happened yesterday before he posted this on his YouTube channel. In this article, also, I'd encourage people to read this. Like, take 5 minutes to fucking read something. And the article is called An Open Letter to Patriot Prayer and the Proud Boys from Antifa by David Rovics, posted on the 7th. And this is how he concludes. He's an anarchist. He is a member of the industrial workers of the world. He's like a real fucking anarchist. This is what he said. He said, back to the U.S.
Yeah, I can't play that. I can't play that. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, you can't play the status quo video? I'm sorry.
No, Craig is showing me a clip of a girl getting shot.
So I'll just read this from David Rovics quick. He says, contrary to the rhetoric, our ruling elites consist of millionaire Democrats and millionaire Republicans. The Congress consists almost entirely of millionaires, the Democrats being slightly richer than the Republican counterparts. History shows us in abundance that different elements of the two groups of millionaires are always vying over the years, decades, and centuries to convince us all that they represent us, or different elements of us, the people of this country. What they're doing in their efforts to appeal to different segments of society, in fact, is practicing divide and rule politics. Who they're trying to divide from whom doesn't even vary that much over the years, though the dynamics evolve somewhat. What I want to get across, if I were ever to have access to your attention, is that the reason they need to divide us is because they cannot afford to have us united. And the reason they cannot afford to see us united is because they don't rule on our behalf. They rule on behalf of the 1%. Yeah. Neither party represents us and the working class majority of whatever color or gender. Trump does not represent us either, no matter how much he may succeed in painting himself as an outsider or rebel of some kind. What the elite from both parties want is division. They want for us to shout at each other and shoot each other. They will try in so many ways to make this happen. They and their friends who run the major social media platforms with their conflict algorithms and their friends in corporate media, whether CNN or Fox, will do their best to reduce the debate to some people calling others fascist who love racism, while others are called communists who hate freedom or anarchists who love chaos and arson. What they're afraid of, I must conclude, is a united working class. Or to put it another way, a working class aware of its own existence. Or to put another way, class solidarity, and especially international class solidarity. What they love most are pawns. And those demonstrators marched from a Trump rally to the Capitol with the president telling them to march to the Capitol. I'd like to point something out here. President Trump did not march with his own supporters to the Capitol. He went back home and watched it on fucking television.
But he did lead them to believe that he was going to be marching with them.
He did not do it, though.
Yeah, he didn't. No, he didn't.
He did not. He was not breaking the barricades with his supporters. He was not shouting them on in support in the rally after the rally that he spoke at. He didn't have his retinue around him right there watching it. I mean, so this thing about this guy represents us and he's really cool and he wants to drain the swamp and all this crap, that was all rhetoric. That was all rhetoric. When push comes to shove, the guy did not support his supporters.
It's exactly what it's like. Okay, I played the first clip I played tonight was of Trump, who had just spoken an hour earlier before we started the show, and he was talking about the brutal attack on the House of Representatives, on the Capitol, and all I can think is, that's not what happened. That wasn't a brutal attack. I mean, yeah, these people stood up and they stood their ground and they fought, but they didn't come there armed. They didn't have 5-gallon cans of gasoline. They didn't spray paint every fucking wall they could spray paint, every pillar.
They didn't destroy George Washington's portrait.
Right. This is exactly what I'm saying. Those people were not anarchists. They were not terrorists. They were simply there to occupy that building, and they got brutalized by a police state that sees us all as domestic terrorists.
Yes, they see all of us as domestic terrorists because they in their own way, believe, and this is true for Mitch McConnell as it is for Nancy Pelosi. They both believe that they are better informed, and they are the people who should be making decisions about our welfare. They believe they've got this kind of patriarchal or parochial way of looking at things, where we're like little children and they're our leaders, and we should just listen to them.
I think it's like you said, though. I think, earlier you were talking about, God damn it, you were saying that...
there's a lot on the plate.
No, you're saying that they treat us like children. I don't think it's that. Okay, I think it's that they see us as a threat if we're not governed, and the only people that we're really a threat to isn't democracy, isn't our neighbors. The only people that we're truly a threat to is the elite and the political class. And the fucking, like the media, this mainstream media. That's what they see. They see us as a threat to them because, like you said, they're not representing anyone in the working class. Like I've been saying for as long as I've been making YouTube videos, they don't represent any of us. I've never been represented by this government my entire life for 1 second, as far as I could tell.
So you can love the tactic. You don't have to love the messenger. Excuse me. You can love the messenger, but not love the message. You know what I'm saying? Is that what you're kind of getting at there?
No, what I'm getting
the tactic.
No, look, there isn't. It's what you said. That's what I'm getting at. What you said. What Glenn Greenwald said is that there's nobody up there representing us. There's no one representing us, the working class people. And they stand up there and they lie about it and they act and they do their theater. This, oh no, I'm on this working class people side, the conservatives, the churchgoers, the anti-abortion people, and then there's the other fucking douchebag liars that stand up there and say, no, we're on the liberal side. We're pro, choice and pro gay and pro bullshit is what you are, because they do their fucking deals hand in hand, happily, not representing a single working class individual. Doesn't matter. Anybody on the left, anybody on the right. Okay? It's bullshit. There isn't a left and a right. Okay? That's what Glenn Greenwald is saying. They're exactly the same. This is what I've been saying all along. They're the same because they're working for the same outcome. They may not appear the same or come across the same, or maybe one of them has a southern accent and that appeals to you, but they're the fucking same. They have the same fucking agenda. The same agenda.
I never vote for any of them. I would never go to a rally for a Republican or a Democrat, period. But this tactic, which is actually the one that's like in V for Vendetta, the end of the movie, that tactic of taking the State House, taking Parliament, taking the Congress, that tactic, I think, has just been taken out of the toolbox, all right? Occupy Wall Street in 2011 or something, right before the 2012 election,
right?
That took public occupations out of the toolbox of the activist. That tactic can never be used again because many cities across America passed laws preventing public encampments in a political way for like political actions. You can't just go camp out in front of City Hall or camp out in front of a federal building for 5 weeks and have all your friends come and say, we're here to oppose the government. You can't do that anymore.
Well, that's untrue. You can do it, but they have laws that say that it would be illegal for you to do it. Right. We can do it. It's just a matter, again, of the people coming together, of recognizing the real enemy, as I said over and over again, of recognizing that there's no one representing anyone in the working class, like I said over and over again, and us coming together together. And I don't think we have to go and occupy this space or occupy that space. I think we simply have to say we're not going to do anything for the next 10 days. And do we have your attention yet? You know, go ahead.
No work, no buying, no insurance payments,
right.
None of that. I agree with you on that. We have to be solidified. We have to be like united on both sides in order for that to happen. And that means we have to have dialogue, which I am into. I am into dialogue. And this is a good time right now to see which, like, whatever, people on the right, like in Fox News, or people like progressive liberals who are appalled by what happened, right? And are shooting for the center. They're saying we all need to be in the center. You can tell right now by how the journalists are responding who is honestly looking for the truth and who really wants to unite the people. And right now it seems to me like it's a very small group of people who are saying that. Overall, from what I've observed, I haven't looked at the chat boards for the Proud Boys or the Patriot, Patriot. I don't know how they're responding after the loss of their comrade. People want to describe that in chat? Please give me some links. I would like to know, because I always like to read what they're thinking, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know how I only know how the left has responded. And like I said, many have jumped on board the rhetoric of like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon and the NBC newsreader and Nancy. They're all like following the script without questioning. And a result of that's going to be the Capitol is going to be heavily militarized. There will be no opportunity to storm the Capitol ever again. And there's going to be an inordinate amount of censorship. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, these huge institutions, Instagram, they're going to not allow people to have these discussions, like the discussions that you foster on your program, Mike. These discussions are going to be verboten in the future, and the censorship is going to be intense, and that's going to be a direct consequence of what happened. And maybe that's why the FBI and the Capitol Police let it happen.
Right. That's the whatever they say. I can't think of his name. But yeah, I agree. It's entirely possible that they allowed this to happen the way they wanted it to go down this way, because it doesn't make any sense that they weren't prepared for it. You know, it's been talked about for weeks. You know, they knew this was going to come down this way. They knew there was going to be a whole bunch of people there. They knew that they were going to be whipped up by fucking Donald Trump, you know.
And they had no cops there, nobody to protect the building.
And then they knew that they were going to head for the Capitol. They knew that. And then they act like, "Oh, well, it took all this time for us to get the National Guard in place after we knew what was going to happen." You knew for weeks what was going to happen. You know?
And now, like you mentioned earlier, they're going to call these people insurgents, and they already are insurgents, terror, all that language. And that's what Glenn Greenwald's article was about, how they're using language. You know, these people, whatever language you want to use to describe the demonstrators yesterday, the easiest way to describe them is as protesters, as demonstrators.
As
that
Americans.
Is what they are. So to describe them in other language is not genuine. It's not really being sincere. They were not an insurrectionary force. There were like 300 demonstrators standing against the strongest government in the world.
Right.
Do you really think they were trying to overthrow the government yesterday? If you do, then you don't know very much about like history, like the Chinese Revolution, the Russian Revolution. Now, these things take months and years of planning, and it isn't just like you storm the Capitol with 300 people and you win the prize. That's ridiculous. And that is not what they were trying to do. So last point, I know other people are going to want to call, and I also know that there's a lively discussion probably going on. I'm not looking at a screen. But there is a real contradiction, another contradiction that people can exploit. Like when they're having conversations with people, they can note to their friends the simple observation, and that is last spring and last summer, progressive Democrats were demanding that the police be defunded and demanding that the police step down. They allowed the federal building in Portland to be trashed, I don't qualm, and they were furious that the police didn't kick out the Chope activist in Capitol Hill. So they were all like supporting the activists. I mean, the progressive Democrats, the Democrat Party was more or less, let's defund the police. Well, now, after yesterday, wow, their tunes have changed like 180 degrees. We need the cops to hunt people down. We need the cops to censor people's speech. We need the cops, the FBI, to hunt down terrorists. Have you seen any of these people? You should stitch them out right now.
Right.
Call the cops.
That's exactly what I keep hearing too. And it bugs the fuck out of me. I agree 100%. I just heard somebody saying, you know, if you have videos, if you have this, if you have that, you need to contact the FBI. You know, fuck the FBI.
Yeah.
Fuck the FBI. In case I'm not being clear about that. Go ahead.
In a discussion, anyone listening finds themselves in a discussion with a person who is defending the police who shot an unarmed protester.
Right.
They need to be quickly reminded of how the police treated people who were leftist, you know, anarchist demonstrators last spring and last summer, and the inherent contradiction in their logic. And they will be revealed for the submissive authoritarian pricks that they are. They bow to power. They kiss the fucking ring. And they will always kiss the ring. And they have no principles or values. It's like politics exist for them to benefit them in the moment and their cause. They supported the cause against the police last spring and last summer because they knew it would hurt the president and they would get votes, you know, and Kamala Harris, you know, the black African American, they could play off of identity politics, but also that it was in their favor to not like the police. Now it's in their favor to like the police. So their values and their core beliefs, they kind of shift with the wind. As the wind blows a different direction, their opinion changes. Those people are the people should be most suspicious of.
Right.
Always always watch those fuckers.
And understand it's theater for them. It's not reality. They're not sincere. They're not on anybody's side who doesn't have $100,000 plus in cash to get their attention right now. That's the fact.
Yeah, and that includes every single newsreader.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the newsreaders in Tacoma and Seattle, the newsreaders in Chicago and Minneapolis, the newsreaders in Atlanta, the newsreaders in Little Rock. If you're on a corporate television station reading the news at 5, you're not like speaking your truth. You're reading a script, you know?
Yeah.
Created by corporate news.
Absolutely. It's not created by corporate news. One of the lines in V for Vendetta is, you know, we don't write the news, we just read it.
We read
that's the government's job to write the news. So
that's right. And like Ron Horn, the guy who writes Surviving Capitalism blogspot that I quoted from earlier, you know, the people who own the media are the same people who own the politicians. So the people, the images and storyline going out, it is the government's storyline, but it's the people who own the government's storyline.
Yeah, it's the rich people. It's the rich people that are in control, dude. The way things are is because this is the way the rich people want it. The reason we don't have a 21st century infrastructure project hiring tens of millions of people, giving them good jobs back and forth across the United States is because the rich people don't want that. In case
that's exactly right. And the managerial class, there's different levels of richness. There's the 1%, there's the 10%, the 20%. I would say it's like the 15% myself, which is the managerial class. You know, they might make $150,000, $200,000 a year. They're not rich, but they have benefited from the status quo, and they do support the owners, and they are partially responsible for keeping the other 80% held down. You know, hold those people down because I've got my privilege, and I don't want to give that privilege or share that privilege with the other people. It's mine. And, you know, I like to think of it that way. Anyway, it's the managerial class. It is the owners, but it's the people that the owners hire to take care of their affairs who also are responsible. They need to be re-educated. I mean, they literally need to be, like, sent to homeless encampments for 6 months. The people who run the insurance companies, the people who, like, run all of these large HMOs and these huge corporate
they need to be sent to for-profit prisons for fucking 6 years is what they need, dude. You know,
with political re-education.
Yeah, that should do it. That should help a lot right there.
Well, I mean, yeah, like getting fucked in jail, not being able to talk to your family,
eating bologna sandwiches fucking 7 days a week, getting fucking scabies, getting fucking getting MRSA from fucking dirty fucking jail cells like they did to Mark. Who's the Prince of Pot from Canada? Got busted for selling. Mark Emery. Mark Emery got 5 years in an American prison for selling seeds from Canada, and he caught MRSA while he was in American prisons. Okay, that's like that's a guaranteed death sentence.
Yeah, the judge, right, in Britain on Monday, the judge in the United Kingdom said, the only reason we're not sending Julian Assange to America is because people die in American jails, and we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna send Julian Assange to a maximum security jail where he is going to kill himself or where he could die because the conditions are so horrible in American jails.
Yeah.
I mean, even our closest allies, and Britain is our closest ally, they realize this.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying that the politicians need to go to jail. We send the politicians to jail. You know, you're saying, I mean, that's where they belong. They're the ones who have allowed America to become this. Not allowed it to become this. They helped make it this way. They need to go to jail. They need to experience what it is that they've done. They need to, you know, I know. You hear me, Chris.
As long as we keep voting for Democrats and Republicans to rule us, we will never control our government. And there's a lot of things we can do. General strike, you mentioned general strike, storming the Washington, D.C., like 1 million people, like in V for Vendetta, like the similar kind of situation. Or, that's what happened in East Germany, too, like in Berlin in the 1980s. Literally, the people came out in the streets and refused to leave. And you have 100,000, 150,000 people surrounding the Capitol and the White House, and they refuse to leave.
Right.
That places the government in a situation. They can either machine gun down thousands of people like they did in Russia on Bloody Sunday in like 1905. These things have happened before. And in other countries, again, if you read history, in other countries, the way the government responds to these situations often creates the foundation for the revolution. So if we had 100,000 people surrounding the Capitol and the White House and they did not move, what would they do? They
would bulldoze the people out. Just like Israel.
All right. I'm going to let you go, Mike. Those are some of my thoughts and reflections. I really appreciate your program and allowing other points of view.
I really appreciate I always appreciate your calls, Chris. We really missed you yesterday, so I'm glad to hear from you tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on the air again. Hey, so you and Craig have a great night, and best to all in chat, and I look forward to the discussion and the ongoing discussion in chat, and have a great evening, all right? Peace.
Okay, talk to you soon. All right, so I have a video here for you guys about the protest at the governor's mansion in Olympia here in Washington, and the fact that they're not calling those people who did something similar to what the people at the U.S. Capitol did, they're not calling them here in Washington, they're not calling them domestic terrorists, which is I'm really glad to see. Because again, the people have the right to protest against their government, however they see fit. That is the motherfucking facts. It's their constitutional right.
And today there are more questions about how these pro-Trump protesters were able to breach the property of the governor's mansion in Olympia yesterday. KOMO's Matt Markovich has the very latest.
It's been a quiet and uneventful day at the Capitol as well as in front of the governor's mansion right behind me. But yesterday, about 100 primarily Trump supporters were able to delodge a pedestrian gate right at the guard shack and walk onto the grounds of the mansion right up to the front door. The governor saying today he and his wife, Trudy, were inside, but felt they were adequately protected by security and the home where all the governors stay while in office. And he, like many, are asking questions on how this was able to happen.
I'm disappointed in this situation. We're going to find out why it happened and how it happened.
We asked the spokesperson for the State Patrol on why it happened, And he says there was a change in the crowd's demeanor after they had been rallying peacefully on the Capitol steps next door.
We weren't expecting that. We were somewhat prepared, but we could do better. And we are evaluating our situation and our tactics.
With the legislative session set to begin Monday, there's talk of bringing in the National Guard for added security. The governor will be meeting with the chief of the State Patrol and the National Guard to discuss that this afternoon. In Olympia, Matt Markovich, KOMO News.
Straight ahead.
Now tonight, Washington Governor Inslee says whatever the mechanism, President Trump needs to exit the White House right now.
And I do not believe the United States can abide that clear and present danger even for another 13 days. He needs to step down. He needs to be removed if that's through the 25th Amendment or impeachment. But by any legal means necessary, we cannot abide the current risk to the security and the freedoms and the democratic traditions of the United States.
Well, the governor blames misinformation peddled by some GOP lawmakers for fueling the unrest in D.C. and at the governor's mansion in Olympia yesterday, where a handful of demonstrators scaled the fence, angry over the outcome of the November election. And since the legislature will gather at the state capitol for the opening of the legislative session this coming Monday, security, of course, is a top concern.
Q13's Steve Kiggins is live in the South Sound, where state leaders are considering asking the state's National Guard to help secure the capitol. Steve.
Yeah, the governor told reporters earlier this afternoon that the local threat level here has increased dramatically, and that's why the State Patrol says security for these lawmakers is top priority.
Yesterday could have been handled better, in our opinion.
The first line of defense surrounding Governor Jay Inslee's residence in Olympia was breached yesterday by dozens. Some of them climbed over this massive gate and eventually breaking it, marching through into the front lawn while the governor was inside his home.
The governor was never in danger, so we made sure that that was safe. And then we were able to get the additional resources here and have them removed from the grounds without any further incident.
Next week, state lawmakers will meet in the Capitol to kick off the new legislative session. COVID restrictions means Capitol buildings are closed to the public. Lawmakers say balancing public engagement will be a challenge.
People who have normally very much engaged in the process aren't going to be allowed to do that. So I think we need to remind ourselves as we go forward that we do everything we can to make sure that voices are heard.
The State Patrol says none of those seen trespassing onto the governor's lawn faced arrest yesterday, but could be prosecuted. Deploying the state's National Guard for Monday's legislative session, it's being considered. The State Patrol says it's working to make sure what happened yesterday won't repeat.
We will learn from yesterday's events, and we are reevaluating our security measures, our resource planning, and and how we position resources, especially for Monday coming up.
So the Capitol campus here in Olympia, it's open to the public, but just for pedestrians and bicyclists. You're not going to be able to drive your car in here, and you're definitely not going to be able to find a place to park. The governor said he's going to be speaking with the State Patrol to talk about security specifics this afternoon. We're live in Olympia tonight. Steve Kiggins, Q13 News.
All right, so I'm going to have another bong hit. That does sound pretty good. And we'll take it from there. I have a couple of videos left. I don't know what I have. Let's see. I have a video about how they're calling for Trump's impeachment everywhere. Because he can't make it the next 2 weeks. And of course, the last time they tried to impeach Trump, it went so fucking well. It makes sense to do it now with the last 2 weeks because they got nothing better to do. And let's see, I got that video. I think that's it. I think I have one more video. So we'll play that in a minute here. I'm going to take a bong hit with you guys. If anybody wants to have a bong hit with me, just follow me and do exactly as you see. What? All right. I am about ready. Let's see. All right, so and you know, one of my favorite lines from the V for Vendetta movie, one of the most well-known lines from that movie is that people should not be afraid of their governments. People should not fear their governments. Governments should fear their people. And I believe that wholeheartedly, and I think that that's one of these things where you see these members of Congress calling these protesters domestic terrorists and making it real clear these are not protesters, they're domestic terrorists. It's as if you know they this line, you know, people should not fear their governments. Government should fear their people. That's the last thing anybody in Congress fucking wants. Hello, caller.
Hello, Michael. This is Steve McClanahan.
Steve motherfucking McClanahan?
Steve motherfucking McClanahan reporting to you live currently.
You sound like your medication's working very well this evening, Steve.
It is. I'm back on the meds, and we're in Washington, D.C.
Right on.
I got a suit and tie on right now.
Careful, you're going to get labeled a terrorist.
I tell you what. Look, I've seen some stuff over here, Michael, that I shouldn't seen before. I should have not seen this.
I know the feeling.
I feel like the government is looking at me.
They're looking at all
They're
of
like,
us.
why does this guy have a suit and tie on currently right now? And I just want to let people know I got it from the goddamn DAV. I got the fucking suit and tie from the fucking DAV, and I can't help it that I fucking make this shit look good.
The DVDA? The DVDA? Is that what you said?
And I literally had a legit suit and tie.
The DV from
and
the
shirt and white beater on.
From the DVDA?
This shit was not difficult.
You got a suit and tie from the DVDA? Is that what you said?
What?
The DVDA, is that where you got the suit? The DVDA?
The
DVDA?
The D motherfucking AV, the Disabled American Veterans
Oh, okay.
/ Goodwill. Okay, we're doing it over there.
I love
you
the
can buy
Goodwill.
Candles and candlestick holders. I'm not even kidding. You can buy shit over there that like will hold a candle, and it's made of art and shit. I'm not even fucking joking.
I
Over
love
there
the
at
Goodwill,
DAV,
man. Goodwill's my favorite.
And the Goodwill, the DAV.
The DV.
Man, you know, dude, like disabled American veterans, they honestly, they're growing out of all their clothing, and so they're always donating their wheelchairs to the DAV and stuff.
The
that nobody's
DVDA?
buying.
Huh, weird.
And I feel like it's kind of sad. And so what I was thinking was just go buy a wheelchair for somebody that needs a wheelchair here in America. Just here in America. And if you see somebody out there in the world that needs a wheelchair, after you bought the wheelchair here in America and you couldn't fucking sell it, just give it to somebody in another country. Okay, I'm not even kidding you. You can do that. That's the power. Fucking giving wheelchairs across the universe. Imagine if you were launched up into outer space in a wheelchair and you were still there in the wheelchair, dead and floating across the universe. That would kind of suck. But if you had a legit wheelchair here on Earth because you're needing a wheelchair, I think that'd be kind of cool. No matter what country you live in.
Yeah, that would be. Hopefully one day we'll have those kind of priorities, Steve. I'm glad to hear that you're thinking about things
Dude,
like that.
there's like wheelchairs going in landfills. Landfills are throwing wheelchairs in the oceans, and then fucking whales are trying to fit into legit whales. They're trying to ride the fucking wheelchair in the ocean. It doesn't work for them anymore. And I'm just telling you, motherfuckers, save a whale. Save a fucking whale today in the ocean, for real.
Okay.
Walruses are fucking needing families and wheelchairs and shit too, dude.
Well, you sound like you're being really awfully big-hearted today, Steve, with your wheelchairs and your walruses and your whales. So I'm really glad to hear. I'm really glad to hear that you're concerned about these things and that you're thinking about it.
Well, you know, dude, all you can do, if you're a fucking goddamn giant piece of shit, you can at least think about saving a giant whale or a fucking, you know, a walrus or some shit.
Sure.
Probably a rescue walrus. Somebody fucking, you know, took a hacksaw and shaved his horns off his face and shit, and it's tragic. And I know, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Fucking terrible.
I got fucking...
Yes.
I gotta go. I gotta go to bed.
All right, Steve. It's good to hear from you. Glad you're thinking some deep thoughts today.
I'm literally doing the news right now.
I know.
Doing it live, whether you like it or not, keeping a fucking positive attitude. And I gotta go to bed.
All right, Steve.
It's late. Gotta get up early for the news and shit.
Okay. It never ends.
Sleep for like 2 hours.
You
All right,
got
I
it.
gotta go.
See ya. Steve McClanahan. I think he said he's in Washington, D.C. still. In a suit and tie. I hope he's not sleeping in a suit and tie. Let's see. At least take the fucking tie off, dude. Okay, so I have another video again about Trump impeachment and how everybody's calling for the Trump impeachment now, including Republicans, and it's just fucking idiotic. This government, they have zero priorities. Again, there is no business for the people. It's not about the people at all. They don't give a shit about us, the working class. They care about what the rich want, and this is the problem. Those people that were down there, again, they weren't domestic terrorists. They didn't burn anything. They didn't explode anything. They didn't rip paintings off the walls and tip over every statue they could. They didn't spray paint everything. You know, they were simply we the people taking back the people's house, occupying the people's house. And to hear politicians and news models call them domestic terrorists when they didn't do anything. A terrorist is someone like what happened in Nashville on Christmas Day, when there was a bomb on Christmas Day in Nashville. That's what terrorism looks like. People occupying a space, taking over and occupying a space is not terrorism. If they were smashing everything and burning everything, then you have kind of an argument that that these people were obviously, out of control, violent mob that wanted to, then you have an argument but they're not terrorists. Terrorism and terrorist the words should be reserved for very clear, because when you muddy the waters with a word like terrorist or terrorism, then all of a sudden all protesters are now terrorists. Any protest is now an act of terrorism. That's where we're at. And that's who these so-called representatives are being, is who these news models are being. They're being this, anything moving forward now is an act of terrorism. You people are all domestic terrorists. We know it. We've known it for a long time. Just now we can call it to your face. In case you didn't know.
First at 4, a dizzying day of action and reaction after the U.S. Capitol was stormed by a group that the next president of the United States calls domestic terrorists. Thanks for joining us for the news at 4. I'm Jamie Tompkins.
I'm Aliana Gomez. We begin with breaking news right now. We're going to take a look here at live pictures of Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where just within the last 20 minutes, we are learning about another death linked to yesterday's violent riots. CNN tonight is reporting a U.S. Capitol police officer has now died as a result of yesterday's clash with extremists on Capitol Hill, and he's now the 5th death blamed on the riots yesterday. Again, this information just coming into our newsroom at this hour. We'll update you as soon as we learn more. Meantime, President Trump is still in power tonight, but the wave of lawmakers hoping to remove him in his 11th hour is growing rapidly. We are bringing you team coverage on some of those elected leaders who were caught in the middle of the chaos at the Capitol, along with what security looks like for our local Capitol, with a big day coming up quickly.
But first, the news coming out of D.C. today was like a fire hose, with statements from the White House, the president-elect, the House Speaker, the stunning resignation of a top cabinet member, and accusations about Capitol security. Here's how it went down.
What we witnessed yesterday was not dissent. It was not disorder. It was not protest. It was chaos.
Not worried about the next election. I'm worried about getting through the next 14 days.
Across Washington, rumblings of removing the president grew louder.
It's time to invoke the 25th Amendment and to end this nightmare.
There are some people, including Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, soon to be Majority Leader, calling for the cabinet and Vice President Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment.
My friends, we are in a very difficult place in our country as long as Donald Trump still sits in the White House.
I have some breaking news, and I want to get your take on it. This is the first cabinet member level resignation from the Trump administration since the chaos yesterday. Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao is set to resign.
She adds to a growing list of administration officials who are resigning, including Mick Mulvaney, who was notably the former chief of staff, but was the special envoy to Northern Ireland, Stephanie Grisham, who was the First Lady's chief of staff.
Today, crews are putting fencing around the Capitol complex. An officer on scene telling Fox News this is the new norm of what we'll see daily leading up to the inauguration. Some breaking news on the Hill. Nancy Pelosi saying she asked for the resignation of the chief of Capitol Police, and now she's saying, sir, that she has received that, and he will be submitting his resignation.
What happened yesterday was poor planning. They were understaffed. There was a lot of Capitol Police had the day off. They didn't do the intelligence analysis. They should have studied this event. They should have realized there's going to be thousands and thousands of people there.
Social media companies are reacting to the violence on Capitol Hill by blocking President Trump.
Facebook is now saying it will ban President Trump's account indefinitely. The platform, along with Twitter, both suspended the president yesterday over his posts about the Capitol Hill riot.
The riots were the most significant breach of a government institution since the British burned the Capitol during the War of 1812. This time, the aggressors were American citizens.
Well, Dana, 68 were arrested yesterday. All but one was from out of town. But as you said, today, FBI and police are looking for hundreds more by combing through Capitol surveillance and hotel video, social media, and urging people to upload images of those who stormed the Capitol.
You know, whether you're a member of Congress or a Capitol Hill policeman or, there's a lot of people that were hurt physically, but also mentally. And I got to tell you, it's just not who we are as a country.
And still blocked from social media platforms, much of the day was spent waiting for President Trump to say something.
And after hours of silence, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany called the press corps to the briefing room, and here's part of what she had to say.
I am here to deliver this message on behalf of the entire White House. Let me be clear. The violence we saw yesterday at our nation's Capitol was appalling, reprehensible, and antithetical to the American way. We condemn it, the president and this administration, in the strongest possible terms. It is unacceptable, and those that broke the law should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you very much.
Now you can hear the roars of reporters there upset that the press secretary refused to take any questions from the press, choosing instead to let the White House statement speak for itself. And while the White House has few words about yesterday's frightening scene, the voices of angry lawmakers are reaching a fever pitch today.
More than 100 lawmakers across the House and Senate have made similar statements to the one that we just heard from Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and calling for President Trump's cabinet to remove him from power using the 25th Amendment. Now that includes 8 Washington senators and representatives who have either advocated for impeachment or for the president to be removed from his position today. As for the 25th Amendment, the rule allows for the vice president to become commander-in-chief if he is willing and majority of the cabinet agrees that the sitting president is unfit or no longer able to do his job. It was used very briefly twice during President George W. Bush's tenure while he was under anesthesia.
Washington's lawmakers were at the center of the turmoil at the Capitol. Many lawmakers who represent Washingtonians in Congress managed to stay calm and composed during the harrowing ordeal, but the emotions are finally sinking in a day later when they can truly reflect on the enormity of it all.
Q13's Hannah Kim spoke to a number of representatives on how they strategized a safety plan, including Pramila Jayapal, who teared up talking about how close she was to all of this danger. Hannah?
Yeah, Jamie and Aliana, Representative Pramila Jayapal was one of the Congress members trapped in the Capitol building when the violent mob took over. She heard the gunshots, the windows breaking, and we have seen the images of her taking cover. But as you guys said, it is taking a day later to get their full perspective. At one point during her interview today, Jayapal got emotional when the conversation turned to her family. This video of Representative Pramila Jayapal ducking for her life has played out for the world to see. Today, Jayapal says this is the moment she was scared the most. Police with their guns drawn on the House floor and a mob just on the other side.
We were told to get our gas masks out. At that point, we could hear very loud noises. To my incredible team, I told them they were all worried that I was going to die, some of them.
While others were evacuated from the House floor, Jayapal, who was watching the electoral count from the gallery above, didn't have an easy out.
I was texting with my husband, who was in the Capitol, in my office.
She stayed calm then, but the emotions are hard to hide a day later.
You know, to be totally frank, both of us are dealing with some of that today in the aftermath when we actually have time to think about it. And so, yes, it was a difficult experience. You know, a lot of loving and hugging our kids and our loved ones, because that's what happens in these moments.
While Jayapal was stuck in danger for more than an hour, her colleagues were hunkered down in their offices.
I was sheltered in place in my office, and it was very scary. We've never had a mob take over the Capitol before.
Representatives Adam Smith, Susan DelBene, and Kim Schreier received text messages from Capitol Police to shelter in place. Their offices are across from the Capitol building, connected by underground tunnels.
With, curtains drawn, lights off, staying quiet.
This is Schreier sitting in her office before yesterday's mayhem. Because her office is on the first floor with window access, she says she was worried, so she moved up to the 5th floor, locking herself in with another colleague for hours. At one point, Schreier says someone knocked on their door.
And we didn't say a thing. We left the lights off. We stayed quiet until we heard their voices and knew who they were, because you don't know who it is.
Most watch the chaos on TV as they try to stay safe.
And just to see that we had Capitol Police with arms drawn on the floor of the House, just devastating and heartbreaking, and just a terrible, terrible day for our country.
Tonight, the representatives say they plan on seeking accountability on how an untrained mob could breach the Capitol so easily.
I also think that there needs to be a full investigation about what the heck happened, that it was so easy to just waltz into the Capitol.
Representative Kim Schreier also says that she remains incredibly worried about our country and incredibly concerned that the threat is not over. Jamie?
Thank you, Hannah.
Again, those videos of those people on the steps of the House of Representatives, those people, you know, I think it's beautiful. I don't know how anybody sees it as anything but beautiful. You know, this is American people in the people's house, right? What is the problem? And now they're domestic terrorists, you know. And I told you about this yesterday. You know, this is what they do. They attach this label. They just throw the labels out. They throw the labels out. They throw the labels out so that they can whatever they can get whatever they can to stick. You know, now they're domestic terrorists. Hello, caller.
Hey, Mox. It's Tim. How are you doing today?
I am doing good, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Watching the news like everybody else.
It's a beautiful day in the Northwest, and I got to take my lovely, beautiful pooch for a long walk.
Oh yeah, definitely. Give him a good walk. Yeah, yeah, man. So the news was crazy, isn't it, man? I think what we're witnessing is the full-on, you know, hypocrisy of the establishment. You know, like a lot of these people were fucking, you know, they have quotes, you know, asking for violence on the streets, basically. And now it's like, oh my God, now that they got what they fucking deserve, you know, it's fucking terrorism.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, like, you know, just double standards on full display. Conservatives, and particularly Trump supporters, and I guess, you know, far-right people have been, you know, walking on eggshells, you know, because, like, if we, like, loiter in the Capitol, you know, we'll be charged as terrorists, sedition, or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And this isn't anything new, you know? Like with Charlottesville, which is, you know, also the same kind of media overreaction, you know? That guy's story was crazy. What they did to him, he had a bunch of people, you know, banging on his car like it's something from The Walking Dead. This is after the cops forced them to walk through the protesting crowd. And like, you know, a guy pulled his rifle. He openly talked about it. You know, he went through the people. I don't even think he hit the girl that died. I think she just had a heart attack. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, they threw him in prison. They wouldn't let his fucking mother speak to him. They were trying to get him a new lawyer because the lawyer they had was going to fuck him up. And they gave him 400 fucking years. And he never got a chance to even get a decent lawyer. So, they overcharged the shit out of fucking the people they deem to be the terrorists. You know? They fucking overcharged the shit out of them. And we're seeing that now. But, you know, personally, I don't advocate for violence. And I wouldn't have even stormed the Capitol building myself if I was there in person. But, you know, the situation was created. They censored everything. You know, you can't even talk about the election, right? You can't talk about the fraud that's obvious and widespread.
Yeah.
Definitely changed it. And, you know, they refused to hear it in the courts. They refused to hear everything in the courts. Like, the courts just rejected it. They didn't even hear the evidence.
Right.
You know, we're not, you know, we have the system totally failed. They're telling everybody just to shut up. If they don't shut up, they'll remove them. Then they start talking about, like, you know, fucking up our banking. Like, they were talking, I saw a news report saying that the airline union was trying to get everybody involved with that fucking protest to be banned from flying for the rest of their lives. You know?
Yeah.
So, like, just these crazy overreactions. I'm sure eventually the banks are going to start kicking in and revoking credit, whatever.
If they charge them with domestic terrorism, they will be banned from flying. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, they're just going to do everything they possibly can. And, you know, honestly, the election was stolen. You know,
Well,
I mean, like, there's some intense evidence. Have you seen the doctor
There is no doubt there is massive shenanigans going on in the election, and even if there's not massive shenanigans, even if there's just a little bit of shenanigans, people should want to know what it is that happened so that they can make sure, well, we better check to make sure that didn't happen in our election also. So it is kind of disgusting that they act like there's nothing to see here, folks. We're not, and how dare you challenge what we're saying,
Well, I mean, just besides just the instruction manual for these damn machines, just talking about how you can rig it for fraud, how you can weight votes, like where somebody only, doesn't get 30% of the vote and the other candidate does. They have it in decimals, so you don't take a full vote, just take part of a vote. But then they add them all up together. They just do all kinds of fucking, sick shit. And then, when you see the news about these recounts, these machines will, take a digital image, like a PDF image or something. And it creates these things. It'll create new barcodes, it'll create whatever it is. It'll create whatever the results are. It'll create an image of that. Those are not the real ballots. Those are the images of the ballots that this machine created.
Huh.
And it's in their software and it's in their manual on how it can do this. And it can basically create votes and give the thing a whole new barcode and everything. And, it's just, it was vicious. We saw where the candidates.
Well,
were
that's what I mean.
votes.
That's what I'm talking about. If there is, we all know that there's shenanigans. Again, these people in D.C. that took over the Capitol, they're not there just because of Donald Trump. They're there because of decades of shenanigans that have been going on with our elections and everything else. They're going to war based on lies, all this shit, and so they know that the people's house is being occupied by traitors, basically. And so they went there.
Were told to shut up, and this is what they weren't allowed to speak. When you're not allowed to speak, what's your only option left? And that's why I kind of, I didn't predict this, but I predicted, some violence of some sort. Dude, somebody's going to, overreact. Dude, there's people without their jobs right now about to commit suicide. Maybe they want to go out a hero.
Yeah.
Dude, it's a powder keg, and you're just fucking making things worse. They just ratchet the tension up every chance they get, and it's well, this is what you did, you fucking fucked us over. Didn't even humor us, didn't even humor us. Didn't even have a sham ass election where it was obvious it's fraud, and it says nope, ruling's not fraud. Not even a sham fucking court, trial. Just bullshit, nothing, and when people were left with no other options, I don't condone what they did, but goddamn, honestly, I'm kind of glad it happened,
Yeah, I'm very glad it happened. I love that it happened. I think it was a beautiful thing that it happened. And I salute, I think that the founding fathers would salute all of those people as patriots.
Yeah, they didn't even do anything that bad. They were loitering,
They didn't do anything. They didn't fucking spray paint the walls. They didn't rip down all the art. They didn't steal the paintings. They didn't fucking topple the statues. They didn't do shit except for occupy the people's house. That's what they did.
Yeah, it's just and now we're all supposed to pretend like they're all crazy.
We're supposed to pretend like they're fucking terrorists. The worst thing they can possibly be in a society, in a civilized society, we're supposed to pretend that they could be terrorists. That not that they could be, that they are.
Yeah, they're going to go after everybody, though. They're you can't talk about election fraud. Now, you're a fucking terrorist. They're going to just steal it. In fact, even during the Georgia runoff, I saw a video, dude, where the fucking Republican candidates' votes went down. These are supposed to be incremental, updates. It should only be going up.
Yeah.
And, then all of a sudden they go down, and this is a sign of their fraud with their election software and how we know it works. from what we fucking got from their own fucking manual. And, it's just, I mean, I saw it there. Everybody knew it was going to happen. They just did it. They said, fuck it. They went all in, fucking everybody fucking turned. It was quite the sight to behold,
Yeah.
And, fucking, if they, the police let them in, honestly, I can see people forcing their way in. I can see the police letting them in. I'm sure some fucking police officers are like, oh, yeah, let me stop these people who think the election was stolen. God, they're crazy, I mean, of course, they don't want to stop them, they have to do their job. But, I mean, sure, I mean, fuck, it doesn't matter why, the results are ultimately the same. It's going to be a PR nightmare. And, it's just nuts. Like, they're going to ban the president from, like, everything they can.
Yeah.
And they're going to seize his business. And, like, what the fuck, dude? He didn't say storm the Capitol. He said be strong.
You know what? Even if he did stay storm the Capitol, okay? He's the motherfucking president of the United States. And if he says, you know what? These people are stealing your election and you should do something about it. Here's what I think should happen. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Even if he incited them to go down and occupy the people's house. Again, they didn't do an act of terrorism. They didn't blow anything up. They didn't burn anything down. They went and occupied the people's house. How is that an evil thing to do?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it really wasn't. It was probably one of the best protests I've seen in years.
It was great.
It was just against the wrong people, It was against the people who, have all the damn power, at least in the federal government. And they got the backing, I'm sure, like, the Biden administration is going to be loaded with people from Facebook and Twitter and Google. And
I'm sure, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's like they're running the show. Like,
that's pretty obvious.
Presidency.
That's pretty obvious. I mean,
I'm pretty sure Facebook will be like writing the laws.
Facebook thinks that they have more power than the president. Facebook thinks that they can decide if it's appropriate what the president of the United States said or not. Fuck Facebook. Fuck Twitter. Fuck.
I'm so glad that
they're
so kind to prevent me from hearing what I want to hear. Like, I couldn't hear it if I wanted to, if at least on their damn platform, I got to fucking search like crazy to figure it out. And honestly, I hope this is kind of like, is the Great Awakening, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of fucked up shit, and I'm hoping it's becoming more and more obvious to everybody, Like, why protest a fucking Starbucks when you can protest fucking, Facebook or fucking Google or fucking whoever the fuck,
Yeah,
well, make a difference, I mean, trying to make a difference is what I'm hoping more people will see, and I'm hoping just more and more people will open their eyes to what the fuck's actually going on. Because, I mean, there's some definite people who hate us. They hate all of us equally. Some of us are, useful idiots for them. Some of us are not. But, even the useful idiots, their day will come. And a day will come for all of us. I mean, we're heading towards Chinese fucking censorship, social credit scores, and we're heading there.
And don't forget vaccine passports. We're all gonna have a vaccine passport. Don't forget here first.
I ain't taking that fucking vaccine.
Hey, well, if you don't have your vaccine passport, sir, I'm sorry, I won't be allowed to let you into the grocery store today.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, dude. I mean, like, I think it's like you show them a barcode on your phone. I'll be like, let me just get an image of that, take a screenshot. I got it on my phone. Here, scan it. Oh, yep, that's a vaccinated.
There you go.
When that happens, I'm taking a screenshot of a barcode, and like, I'm just going to have that screenshot ready to go. But I ain't taking that fucking vaccine. Fuck that, dude. You got to fucking work around that shit. You got a better chance of dying from the vaccine than the fucking disease, Fuck that shit. You seen all those people, fucking that nurse that fainted. God, dude.
Well, I think I'm starting to hear more and more about allergic reactions too. So it's something to, you know, again, there's if there's plenty of people who want to take the vaccine, then let them take the vaccine, you know, and then kind of let's watch and see what happens, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. Yeah. I mean, like, if it works, then, like, you know, it's been a few years and it seems cool, maybe. But yeah, no way I'm taking that shit right off the bat, dude. Those dudes have no liability, zero.
Yeah.
All they can do is make profit from it. You know, that's one of the things that, like, oh, you know, they always hit the anti-vaxxers on. It's like,
They don't even have to get us to. They don't even have to get us to. They don't even have to get us to pay for it, and they make profit off of it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they have no liability, zero. So yeah, if they fucking kill you, it doesn't matter. Oh, whoops, we fucked up.
Shit happens.
That's the best you'll get, if you'll even get a whoops, we fucked up from them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you know, just things are bad, you know. The censorship's going to be nuts. Like, you know, we will not be talking about how our elections were stolen. These Dominion machines are going to be in Georgia until at least 2027, so you can kiss the next fucking presidential election goodbye. There's not going to be much hope, you know, and they're going to rule potentially forever.
It's just the same, dude. Look, the only hope is that the American people can move beyond this bullshit conservative, liberal fucking division and come together and say, no, we're not Democrats, we're not Republicans, we're Americans, and we're here to defend our rights and our Constitution. And all of you fucktards who took a vow to defend our rights and our Constitution, who have broken that vow clearly, are going to prison. We're gonna make examples of you.
Yeah, I mean, and when that happens, they'll be sure to steal the election so it doesn't. You know, this was the death of hope, I think. As far as for the people.
The death of hope is a very good thing. The death of hope is a very good thing. I fucking hate hope, dude. You know, and I'll tell you why. Because if we're in this horrible, desperate situation, and there's some kind of hope, then, you know, we might fucking make some fantasy decision about, oh, well, we'll go on the side of hope, you know. But if there's no fucking hope left, then we go, okay, we know what to do, and we take care of business immediately. It's not some fucking fantasy about hope what's gonna happen. Fuck hope.
Yeah, like, I mean, I can see things getting bad.
Yeah.
So
it's already bad. It's been bad for a while.
I mean, like that's just it. I don't wish for the worst personally. I always hope for a positive outcome. But yeah, it's just getting harder and harder to fucking find one.
It's really not. I mean, look at, you have to find the joy is in the basics of life. Okay, the basics of life, enjoying a nice plate of food, you know, the smell of your girlfriend's hair, you know, taking your dogs for a walk, you know, it's real basic. It's right there in front of you all the time too. There's joy if that's what you want to experience. Okay, and you don't need hope for it. It's right there in front of you, waiting for you.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah, we'll see how things get after the Great Reset.
All right.
I'm not hopeful, Max. You know, I mean, I think we're seeing an acceleration, unlike any time in our lives. I think, yeah, I mean, they're getting so, you know, it's getting like to China territory. They'll do whatever the fuck they want, and if you talk about it, you're no longer allowed to talk.
Yeah.
You know? Your credit score might go down.
I agree.
You might not be able to travel. You won't be able to own a gun. If anybody can own a gun, you know, or at least purchase one. I mean, it'll be pretty hard to get rid of all guns, you know, in America. Unless they go door by door, which they could do. You know, who knows what the fuck they'll do. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to say, say my piece.
All right. Well, it's good to hear from you.
And, yeah, I hope you have a good one, Mike. Bye.
All right. We'll call back soon. Talk to you later. Bye. All right. So, and again, this is, you know, this country, what this country's founded on, the Constitution of these United States, right? It's meant to be this foundation of rights that you have. And the problem is that these people in Congress who take a vow to protect that Constitution, they're not fighting for your rights. They're not fighting for your freedom. They're not trying to protect that freedom. They're making 40,000 new laws a year because your freedom is a threat to them. Your freedom makes you a potential domestic terrorist. That's the truth. That's the way they see you. And if we don't deserve better public servants than that, you know, we're pretty screwed. And I know we can do better. I just don't understand why we don't do better. You know, I mean, these people that we have serving us, representing us, they hate us. They hate our freedom. And they take a vow to protect it. I just despise them so much. I can't even begin to tell you. Let's see. Do we have, let's see. Yeah, there's a video. Okay, and there, we're shooting sharks. We're shooting sharks, people. We're shooting sharks. Shooting sharks. Let me think. I have another video for you. Let's see. Let's play this one right here.
Sometimes life can be a little overwhelming. Sometimes the weight of the world can be too much to bear. Sometimes you need to stop worrying and take a deep breath. Sometimes you need cannabis. Introducing Brightside, high-quality cannabis delivered right to your door. Brightside offers an extensive menu of strains and products to meet your needs. Choose the experience you want, and we'll send you the dankest herb, the real sticky icky, some top-shelf marijuana. If you like what we send you, keep the whole jar. We'll even include some nugs for you to blaze. As part of Discovery, you'll get to try new strains and products. Side effects may include euphoria, increased appetite, uncontrollable giggles, elevated sensitivity to musical dopeness, and reduced anxiety. Tetrahydrocannabinol may also induce feelings of existential well-being and relentless optimism. With a Brightside subscription, you can get it once a month, once a week, or whenever you want, all at a price you'll like. And yes, this is a real company.
Do you know who I am?
You're the wizard.
Ask your doctor if cannabis is right for you. It probably is. Keep it Brightside.
All right, guys. So I'm out of videos, but I want you guys to remember again, as you see these people, these politicians, as you see these news models, these talking heads, these news readers, as you see them call Americans protesters that took back the people's house, that occupied the people's house. Remember, as you see these videos of the people, they could be destroying everything in sight. They could be breaking statues. They could be spray painting everything. They could be ripping these giant paintings. The just irreplaceable stuff. They could just be ripping it and burning it and shredding everything to the ground. And instead, they're not. They're respecting the people's house. They just don't respect the people occupying it. The people, in fact, they see them as treasonous criminals. Again, I don't think it matters left or right. They see them, and I think with good reason they see them that way. So every time you hear somebody calling these people who occupied the people's house yesterday, remember, they didn't burn nothing. They didn't blow up any bombs. They didn't spray paint anything. They didn't rip any paintings down. They simply occupied the people's house. And I believe in America, the people should have a right to do that. Again, people should not fear their governments. Governments should fear their people. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think maybe we'll start titling every live show that. You guys understand. And when you look at this picture that's behind me, you can see the fear. You can see how much the government fears their people. These people aren't poking guns through there. They're not poking sticks through there. They're not shoving hand grenades through that door. They're poking their eye in. And, hey, what's going on in there? And these guys have guns pointed at their faces. Why? Because they're fucking pussies with little tiny pin dicks. That's why. But their gun makes them feel like a real man. And when they point it at somebody's face, they're get a fucking major adrenaline rush. That's why they're doing it, because they can. Okay? Those guys right there, they're horrible pieces of shit. Okay? Just back the fuck up. This is the people's house. Again, they're not smashing anything. They're not ripping anything down. They're not desecrating the people's house. They're occupying the people's house. And shouldn't the people be allowed to occupy their own house? Seems like a no-brainer to me. So, and every one of these motherfuckers calling them domestic terrorists. Okay, every one of these mainstream media news models, news readers, so-called journalists, every one of them calling the people occupying the people's house domestic terrorists. Again, they're misleading you, they're misinforming you, they're misprogramming you, and they're doing it on purpose. They're not pointing out, again, that none of the art was destroyed. They're not pointing out that there wasn't spray paint painted everywhere all over the granite. They're not pointing out that statues weren't toppled everywhere. It's just, oh, these people are horrible. They're horrible. They're the worst of the worst thing that you can be labeled in our society is a terrorist. That's what they're doing to them. These brave people who stood up to take the people's house back, they are now terrorists. That's what they think of you. That's what they think of your rights. These are people who took a vow to protect your rights. That's what they think of you. They think of you as, if you question anything, you are a terrorist, you are a potential terrorist, and of course you're a potential terrorist. That's basically what the National Defense Authorization Act says. It says all of you are potential terrorists. That's why we have to spy on everything you do. That's why we have to record your phone conversations. That's why we have to record your text messages. That's why we have to record all of your Facebook messages, all of your everything you do on the internet, because you're a potential terrorist. That's exactly what the National Defense Authorization Act says, so you know. And now they're calling Americans who protest on television domestic terrorists. Hello, caller.
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Okay, how is it going with you?
Oh, I ended up walking 5 miles about like an hour or two ago, because my vehicle broke down.
Oh, I hate it when it happens.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, like, I have to go ahead and drive for a living, and that's my job.
Uh-huh.
So I'm kind of screwed. It happens.
I thought you were making good money.
I am,
Well,
but I was not able to go ahead and, like, get everything secured, you know, like, I couldn't go ahead and figure out, like, I need to go ahead and save up $1,000 over this month in order to go ahead and buy a new vehicle. I was kind of hoping that the vehicle that I was driving would go ahead and hold out.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, the nice thing is that hopefully if I talk with my friend tomorrow, since I help him out all the time, and I'm not even joking about that, since I do that, hopefully he'll go ahead and help me out with purchasing another part to the vehicle, or the front end to the vehicle, or a transmission to another vehicle, hopefully he'll help me go ahead and get my vehicle up and running.
Hopefully.
Hey, well, you know what? I've been helping him constantly for well over probably a year or two.
Well over.
So, yeah, I mean, like, if I'm helping him and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that his vehicle gets back up on the road, I'm pretty sure he can make sure that I get back up on the road.
Sounds only fair.
Yeah. Well, it's not only fair. I mean, like, we're just really good friends. I mean, like, the thing is that I want to give him more gifts than he gives me gifts. You understand that battle.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
Yeah, I know you guys don't do that there, but I mean, like, my father used to go ahead and battle my grandfather.
Yeah.
Hey, you want a house? No. Hey, you want a restaurant? No. Hey, you want this card? No. My dad told him no every time. He just didn't want the responsibilities.
Yeah. Well, a man has got to have priorities.
Yeah, I mean, like, he ended up finally becoming a millionaire himself. But, you know how it goes with millionaires and bad women.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they take everything because they're thieves.
Well, I mean, it's, a fool and his money are soon parted. That's what they say.
Well, my father was no fool. It's just he didn't marry correctly. Anyways,
kind of foolish.
I do want to go ahead and talk to you, Mox, about, like, this current situation that we have going on.
Uh-huh.
With the whole, I mean, like, I don't even know if the Electoral College is even in play right now.
No, it's all done.
Okay, so basically Trump gave up, in a way.
He's gone. He's a goner.
Not for another 12 days.
Well, they pretty much got him on lockdown. He's not, he doesn't have anybody that's around him to support him to make anything happen, so he's pretty much a goner.
Well, basically, he was told that he's not allowed to go ahead and talk to the American public anymore.
Well, that's not true. At the beginning of this show, I played a message for
That's
him.
not true.
At the beginning of this show, I played a message from Donald Trump that was recorded just an hour before the show started. So no, it's not
really?
true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, he cannot publicly text via Twitter, via Instagram, via a few other platforms. He's not allowed to go ahead and make any statements on.
Right.
Facebook especially. Basically, Facebook and another platform completely deleted the guy and said that he is never allowed to go ahead and make another statement on that again.
Uh-huh.
Even though he's a sitting president.
Yeah.
And, whoa. As a sitting president, if you're not allowed to go ahead and talk to your people, your public, the populace, if you're not able to go ahead and communicate with them, then there's some serious criminal activity going on.
Well, I think that Facebook and all these other social media platforms, number one, first and foremost, responsibility should be the protection of free speech. And for whatever reason, they feel that that's free speech is dangerous, and that it should not have any protections. It should basically be, we don't like that speech, so we're going to censor it. So I think that those platforms need to be shut. They need to have some kind of an order put on them by the government that says that they are no longer allowed to censor people. But, of course, this government doesn't want that. This government wants people censored. Go ahead.
Okay, well, Michael, I'm just curious what you think about the British Broadcasting Corporation, company, whatever, the BBC. I'm curious about what you think about the World War, broadcast that they ended up having, where they explicitly said, "Oh no, there's a world war. Everyone's gonna die." And, it was like an H.G. Wells kind of thing.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it, Stephen. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, way back in the day.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. So anyways, how's the weather in Reno?
Mild.
Well, that's good.
Very mild.
Since you had to have such a long walk today, it's good you're not walking in the snow.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that apparently I get blessed when I have bad years where we don't have dark winters.
Well, it's just a matter of look at you just got to focus on the things that make you happy, Stephen. All right? So it's good to hear from you. Okay, I'll talk to you again soon, I hope. Stay cool, man. We'll get through it. All right, so let's see. That's Stephen from Reno, and this is a video of Golden Gardens. It's a beach down real close to Seattle, and it's a lovely, lovely spot. We got to get some more videos. We need some more videos from more places. There's my Boo Bear, and I wish on this video there was a beaver, and it was just over to the right, right there, just to the right of the pier, and it was a big, fat fucking beaver, man. And but he didn't seem to get on video at all, which was too bad because I would have liked it if we could have got the drone over by him, checking him out a little closer. That would have been really cool. But it was right in that area, but I don't see him anywhere. Big beaver, giant, man. He's like this big. That's without his tail. Just floating along. Anyways, I forget what that lake is called, but it's over at Merrymore Park. It's a very nice park. They have one of the nicest dog parks in the country right there, where we're at right there, except for that spot right there is not off leash. Okay. So, I guess we are pretty much done here. In case anybody wants to call, the number is right there on the screen. It's 805-669-6397. Otherwise, I'm getting very hungry. I'm out of videos. I'm going to go make some food and take it from there for the rest of the evening. If you guys are interested, we will be doing this again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Same Mox time, same Mox channel. Sorry we're getting trouble starting right on time. We're having little microphone issues, and yesterday there was this audio that was going in the background, and it took 10 minutes to figure out where the hell the audio was coming from. So there's these little things that are keeping us from getting started right on time. But tomorrow night we're trying to get it done at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Okay, so same Mox time, same Mox channel. I hope we see you there. Until then, stay cool, because one of these days this war is going to end. Stay cool till then.
No matter which mouth you feed on a two-headed snake, it still shits the same turd. But lucky for you, you have Mox News. More than 10 years. More than 60,000 videos. Mox News has been filtering the nonsense and illuminating the bullshit from your mainstream media. Turn off your TV and turn on to Mox News. For over a decade, documenting the socio-political events that have etched and carved the pathways that define today's modern mess, Mox News has been providing clarity while faithfully bringing you today's relevant stories 100% commercial free and subscription free. And just like Lady Liberty vows to remain free. But at this time, we're asking you for your help, your patronage, and your support to keep the lights on and the videos rolling. For less than 17 cents per day, you can become a basic subscriber, knowing that your donation is truly making a difference that will help continue bringing the news stories that make a difference in your life. Turn on, tune in, and drop a couple dimes today by clicking the link below or visiting moxnews.com and show your support at any level. From a single one-time donation or dedicated monthly subscriber, do it now in less than 2 minutes. All donations are safe, securely processed, and verified using PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover Card. As always, we're sure you'll find something of interest each and every day. This holiday season, give the gift of Mox. moxnews.com.